We are in the condition we are in the state of ignorance we are in the state of war, in the state of economic depression, in the state of depletion of the resources of our planet because of the greed of psychopaths who thought they could create their own reality. Well, look at the reality they created.
You're listening to Sott Talk Radio, the world for people who think.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to Sott Talk Radio. I'm your host, Neil Bradley, together with Joe Quinn. Hi there. We're joined this week by Pierre Lescaudon. Hello. And Jason Martin.
Hey, what's going on?
So, topic of this week's show, no ordinary inside job, the 9/11 Psy-Ops. Well, why this topic? Well, it's never really far from the news, even 11 years later. Of course, we had the Boston bombings recently, and this immediately took us back to 9/11. We had, in the immediate aftermath of the bombing, the ricin poisoned letter scare, which, of course, is a reminder of the anthrax letter scare, which happened in the aftermath of 9/11. And then I came across this Associated Press story, April 29, 9/11 plane debris found a block away from the World Trade Center site. The story is that they found, well, originally the story was that they found a portion of landing gear.
Well, do we want to go to a live broadcast on that, just rather than have you explain it?
And now to that stunning find in New York City we first reported last night here on World News, a piece of one of the planes that hit the Twin Towers on 9/11, found in an alley in downtown Manhattan, wedged between two buildings. Tonight, many asking, how could no one have noticed this now more than a decade after 9/11? ABC's John Schriffen on the investigation and the many questions tonight.
Just a few blocks from Ground Zero sits what's believed to be landing gear from one of the hijacked jets that crashed into the World Trade Towers.
After such a long period of time, I'm really amazed by what is being discovered right now.
It's wedged between two buildings in a narrow alley that hasn't been touched in more than a decade.
The space between the two buildings is only 18 inches. Now, the part has been measured to be 5 feet by 4 feet by 17 inches.
Authorities say it was found Wednesday morning by workers doing construction on a controversial Islamic cultural center.
If you see how confined this space is and you realize the chaos that existed down here on this street, I think it's understandable.
But authorities don't know how it got there. If you look closely, you can see there's a rope attached to it.
Could it have been lowered at some time? It's possible. We look to see if there are marks on the wall. It doesn't appear to be marks on the wall.
With so many unanswered questions, authorities will now take their time combing through the rest of the area for other debris or even human remains.
Could there be remains of victims inside? The Chief Medical Examiner will do a in-depth examination of the site to see if, in fact, there are human remains there.
And police are guarding the entrance to the alley where that plane part sits because this is now considered a crime scene. And because it could be toxic, authorities will wait until Monday to determine just how they will move this remarkable discovery. David?
Hold on.
Extraordinary find, John Schriffen in downtown Manhattan tonight. John, thank you.
I just want
blah, blah, blah. Let's not say too much about that right now because...
Well, I want to point one thing out.
Okay,
though.
go ahead.
You notice that people start saying about how inconsistent something is, and then they follow it up with, but that's understandable. No, it's not.
Yeah, no.
It's not understandable.
Yeah.
The greatest terrorist attack ever, and they didn't comb the entire area for all the evidence. They missed a piece. How thorough was their investigation? It's not understandable.
Well, we're also going to have a special guest on by the name of Dr. Judy Wood, who we're delighted to have on today. She is... let's check first. Dr. Wood, are you there?
Hello,
on
Dr.
this
Wood?
line? Are you talking on this line?
Oh, sorry. This is not Dr. Wood. This is who is this?
Oh, my name is Pete Santilli. How are you?
Hi, Pete.
Hi. How are you?
Not too bad. What's going on?
You were asking for Dr. Wood on this line?
We were making a mistake there, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think you were. No, I was listening in. I'm very intrigued by your presentation. And I understand your focus. Now, this is what I've been learning within the past year or so about 9/11 evidence. And in listening to your opening presentation, of course, criticizing the fact that they've overlooked some evidence. I also want to encourage everyone to make sure that they don't overlook the evidence that exists, especially in where did the towers go. We want to also consider that evidence as well and not exclude that. And I find that a lot of the so-called 9/11 truthers and the scholars and all of those organizations out there, they seem to be pushing their agenda when in fact they're also excluding the evidence that's contained in where did the towers go. So I want to remind everybody that, although we can run around and criticize and say, look, we found this, this piece of landing gear on a plane that, quite frankly, to me, it doesn't even matter. The planes don't matter. So you could tell me that you found an entire jumbo jet laying, in the Hudson River. It has nothing to do with how the buildings turn to dust in midair.
Right. I agree with you, but I'd like to add to that one thing. Mm-hmm. The interesting thing about 9/11 is that no matter what story they tell, no matter what kind of lie they try to sell, mm-hmm. it's incredible that people don't think that they're completely retarded. Even if you believe their story, what kind of investigation they did. I mean, you see like TV shows about FBI investigations where they gather up every little tiny piece of the plane and try to reassemble it. We had this illusion that they do a thorough investigation. How does a giant piece of landing gear go missing? I mean, like in the book where the towers go, there's no rubble, right? Where's the wreckage from the plane? Where's the wreckage from the plane type of thing, Yeah. And did they just assume, well, it must have gotten burned up because, what? No, it doesn't. Where did it go? And no matter how
that's right. Where did the towers go? That's right.
Yeah. And no matter how you look at their explanation, there's always huge holes in it because they're making shit up. They're just lying.
They really, really are. And this is from what I've observed in learning this, because I was I'm a former United States Marine. I was a very, very patriotic individual. I immediately, from the narrative that they unraveled, right from moment number one, I wanted to go kill brown people in the desert immediately. From the initial story. Now, 10, 12 years later, I'm discovering that as this evidence started coming out, organizations like the FBI may not be necessarily incompetent. I would say at the very least they're incompetent. But what their job is to find out what we start to know over that 10-year period, and that's where they go and they try to cover up what actually happened. I believe the FBI. Go ahead.
The thing that you just hit on the main point. No matter how you slice the situation, they have to go. The people that were in power at the time or in power, they got to go because at the very least, they're completely incompetent and have no business running things.
Yes,
at the very least. Mm-hmm. I mean, even if they're not culpable of criminal conspiracy, they're still so freaking incompetent that you got to fire them.
They absolutely are.
Peter, have you got an online presence or anything like that, or are you active online in 9/11 Truth and stuff like that?
I do, but very sincerely, I mean that's not the main reason for my call to promote. I quit my day job as a consumer advocate and a small business owner, December 2011, and I said I was going to start a radio show, so I have a radio show. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool.
But I'm not here to promote that. I'm sincerely not, and I don't like when people do that on my show to come and promote me. But I wanted to call in because it is one of the most important things in our generation to establish the truth about 9/11.
Right.
Okay, Pete. Just hold on there for a second. I have to go to another call here and a little introduction. So if you can just hold on the line there for a second.
You sure can, but I do have more that I want to share with you and everyone.
Just give me a second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Today we've got Judy Wood, and Judy Wood is on the line now. Okay, excellent.
Yes, Dr. Wood?
No, excuse me. Dr. Wood is here. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Wood has written, as our previous caller brought up, a very interesting book on 9/11. It's called Where Did the Towers Go? Thank you for agreeing to come on at such a short notice. I should explain to our listeners, a lot of people probably heard of your work or of your website or book, but I'll just give a little brief bio. So Dr. Wood has a degree a PhD rather, in mechanics engineering. Is that correct, Doctor?
My bachelor's degree is in civil engineering, structural engineering. My master's degree is in engineering mechanics, which is applied physics, and my PhD is in materials engineering science, which is an interdisciplinary study between engineering mechanics and materials engineering.
Thank you, Dr. Wood. So, in the first half of the show, we want to look at what makes 9/11 no ordinary inside job. Now, Dr. Wood has compiled and analyzed a lot of evidence that... Yes, sorry?
You said it was an inside job. You assumed it was an inside job.
Now,
well,
inside job is a
that's
term
just
people bandy around, you know? So we're saying that it's not just, you know, people are like, oh, it's an inside job.
Well, I suppose the word inside job is used just to make it, to dismiss the official story. I suppose is a general term to dismiss the official story.
Well, that's a better way of putting it. It's not this, it's not the story as advertised.
Exactly. That's really what we mean by inside job. It's just such a common term. We
Nobody
just
knows
decided to use
the truth. But that meme that got started about being an inside job, it's actually counterproductive, because what you're doing is starting out saying you know who did it before you even know what got done.
Well, I think what we're trying to say is that we are pretty sure that we know that what the government says about who did it is not true.
Well,
yeah, basically Osama bin Laden from a cave in Afghanistan. I think most people can agree that we can kind of dispense with that.
But I understand your point, Dr. Wood, and I think the right way to go is to follow the evidence without preconception and see where it leads us. So maybe we can start addressing those points, and in particular, I think this justification process that definitely show that the official story doesn't hold water, and the alternative story, this termite or this controlled demolition, doesn't hold water much more.
This isn't Russian roulette. This isn't multiple choice pop quiz. In order to determine, anything, you need to begin with what happened. You need to determine what happened. You need to identify the problem that you're trying to solve. You can't say, well, the answer is 27. I just know the answer is 27. Right or wrong? Well, what's the question? You have to know what the question is in order to know what answer it is. And the way cover-ups work is to get people to immediately assume how it was done before they determine what it is, who did it, why they did it. They hate us for our freedoms, airplanes into buildings, Osama bin Laden. They tell us all these things, everything except for what happened. And you have to begin with what happened. That's your problem statement. And if you begin with anything else, you can never, ever solve the problem. You know why? You know why? If you start out with a theory, what you're doing, if you start out with how it was done, you have to assume, you have to imagine what it is. So you're solving an imaginary problem. You're not solving the real problem. And you're never going to solve the real problem if you're solving an imaginary problem.
Although we are told how it happened by the official story, which is that two planes crashed.
How it happened? What is it? What is it that happened?
It is the destruction of the World Trade Center towers and the destruction of the Pentagon, and that was caused by 3 planes hijacked by Arab terrorists. That's the official story.
But you first need to determine what it is that happened.
Well, that's what I just said. What it is, as far as the American people and the world public is, it is the attack by Arab terrorists on America, specifically the attack that involved the hijacking of airplanes.
But because other people are engaging in conspiracy theories, doesn't mean you need to, does it?
Well, what are you talking about?
What do you mean?
Well, see, if you're, there's this conspiracy theory that this guy bin Laden did X, Y, and Z and conspired with his group of people. A conspiracy is when 2 or more people plan to do something illegal. So that's a conspiracy. And it's a theory. Yeah. So that's a conspiracy theory. There's other conspiracy theories that go around that somebody planted thermite in the building and other people did this, other people bombed. All that's conspiracy theories. That doesn't get you anywhere. You need to begin with determining what happened by looking at the evidence.
Okay, and
that's the only way you can solve the problem. Otherwise, it's just a waste of time. An example I've been giving lately is, a couple of examples. One is the Casey Anthony trial that everyone got all upset about because they were busy assuming who did it before they even knew what got done. And the reason why the case had to end up with, not guilty, because what was the crime? They had yet to determine what happened to the child. And you can't convict somebody if you don't know what happened. And the same thing with, okay, let's also look at, a lot of people get all worked up about the Sandy Hook thing. And another thing I say is know what you know that you know. Establish what you know. Well, what do you know about Sandy Hook? Nothing. So everything is just imagination and, just all sorts of theories about this, that, and the other, and you can never solve anything.
Well,
you have to begin with evidence about what happened.
Of course, yeah. You're talking about evidence, but when you talk about what happened, there is a narrative, an official narrative of what happened on 9/11. And obviously, by implication, you're saying that is false and has to be looked at again because the evidence does not support that theory or that claim of what actually happened.
I don't know what all that story is because on 9/11, when I saw what I saw on the TV set, what they're telling me didn't agree with what I was seeing, so I just tuned it out. When my eyes don't agree, I just ignore, I block out all the talk, the noise.
Right, but you can't be like an ostrich with the head in the sand about that kind of stuff. There is obvious. Okay, here's the. I mean, there is
what I'm saying is I don't want to waste time with conspiracy theories because that gets nowhere. So I just tune out conspiracy theories because I want to know what happened. I see evidence in front of me. I want to go look at the evidence. So I go look at the evidence.
Okay.
I don't need to know what various theories are if I have evidence in front of me.
That's what matters. Yeah, I agree with that. Before theories, evidence.
No, you're being unscientific right there because you are classifying evidence as being only physical. And that's not fair because there's verbal evidence. The story that they tell, the narrative they tell in the news
hang on. You've made an assumption, a false assumption or a false accusation that's incorrect. You said I'm not being scientific. It is the inverse of that. It is the scientific thing to do to first begin with what happened. Not he said, she said, who said, what said. That is not even admissible in court. It's called hearsay. You have to begin with evidence. And, what the evidence says, not what somebody says, somebody else says, what somebody else says. Somebody on the TV, some news reporter said that they heard from somebody else who heard from somebody else something about bin Laden. That is hearsay. I tuned it out because it's meaningless until you first establish what happened.
Okay, and Dr. Wood, you probably shouldn't dispense with the idea of a conspiracy theory because maybe the evidence that you
hang on, you have to begin with what happened.
Yeah, but I'm just saying
you can get that. That's step number 3 and 4 about who did it and why.
Yeah,
a conspiracy involves who conspired with whom.
Yeah,
and I'm not talking about the who part, but I'm talking about the physical evidence.
But
and it's nothing to do with who.
Ultimately, your evidence might point to a conspiracy, evidence of a conspiracy.
You need to begin with what happened.
Yeah,
okay, step by
step. One. You can't be if you start solving step number 4 before you solve step number 1. You're assuming what step number 1 is, so you're solving an imaginary problem, not a real problem. In order to solve a real problem, you must begin with number 1, determining what happened, and then and only then can you determine how it happened. You have to define what it is before you can solve what.
Okay, let's start with step number 1. Dr.
All right, and then number 3 is who did it or who planned to do it. You still have to determine what it is that got done.
Okay, let's start with step number 1 and let's see where the evidence lead to.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Hard facts, observation, scientific. And then we can go on with step 2 and 3. But indeed, step number 1 is evidence, hard facts. What are the observations, concrete observations?
The reason why I was being so rigorous about that is because that is why no one can solve it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because they begin with step number 2, 3, or 4, and they assume what step number 1 is, so they only solve an assumed problem. And it may sound a bit odd and a little self-serving, but it's not. My book is the only determination of what happened that is out there in the public domain, and that includes the NIST report. The NIST report, what they did was assume a problem. They solved a probable hypothetical problem. They did not determine what happened. So let us determine what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, do you want to give us do you have a summation or?
Well, in simple terms, what I determined in most simply put way is that the towers and all 7 buildings were destroyed. It wasn't 3 buildings. It wasn't 4 buildings. It was 7 buildings, and they didn't burn up, nor did they slam to the ground. They turned into dust in midair. And how do we know that? We know that because if they had slammed to the ground, you'd see a pile of debris left over, which didn't happen. If they slammed to the ground, it's something that few people realize, that the towers were built in the Hudson River on bedrock that's 70 feet below the water table. And it has a dike built around it that they refer to as a bathtub or slurry wall. It was a slurry wall when they initially were building it, but it's sort of like the reverse of a bathtub. It keeps the water out because the lower 7 stories or so are below the water table. And so if those buildings had slammed to the ground, they'd have ruptured the dike.
Yeah, because we are talking about 1 million ton. The 2 towers amount to 1 million tons slamming to the ground and damaging the dike and damaging also the hollow parts under the ground, the shopping mall and the tunnels for the metro and the car parks that were pristine after this event, right?
Well, not pristine, but it was. You could walk around there without bending over, and you could read, like in the mall, you could read the signs. You could see the merchandise stacked up on the shelf, just covered with dust. Some of the lights came loose out of ceilings. The PATH train station had a train sitting there, and some of the cars were damaged, but I think there was at least 4 of them that were absolutely not damaged at all. And when they were, excavating stuff, in February is a picture of them pulling out one of the PATH trains from the station in pristine condition. It had the FEMA, red X on it where they count bodies and how many live or dead or whatever. That thing that FEMA puts on things when they go through something.
So the bathtub was intact, and also the seismic records show figures that are much lower than what was expected when you compare, for example, to the records relating to the Seattle Dome, right?
The seismic signal. Yeah, the third thing is that if you had buildings slamming to the ground, you would have had a seismic signal that reflected that, and it did not. Not only that, the real smoking gun of it all is that these towers were on bedrock. If you're slamming anything down that bedrock, it's like hitting a tuning fork with a hammer. It's going to ring, and you have that seismic recording station at the other end of that same bedrock.
Just to have an idea of figures, the potential energy of Water Center was about 30 times more than the one of Seattle Dome, and the magnitude was roughly the same, 2.1, 2.3.
Right. The Seattle King Dome made the equivalent of a 2.3 on the Richter scale, and it was on sort of a jello foundation, the washout from erosion, and it was kind of at water level, but it wasn't on bedrock. It made a 2.3 on the equivalent on the Richter scale. Tower 1, when it supposedly slammed to the ground, or say allegedly slammed to the ground, it made a 2.3 on the Richter scale equivalent, and Tower 2 made a 2.1. And that was only estimated through surface waves for the 2 towers. This is the difference between those. Not S wave or P wave. S wave is a shear wave. It causes motion transverse to the direction of travel, kind of like wiggling a jump rope back and forth. And the P wave is a primary wave. It's like snapping a rubber band. Like you hit a hammer on a rock and it goes ping, directly through it. That's a P wave. There was no P wave or S wave, no detectable P wave or S wave associated with the demise of any of the WTC buildings.
And what's your take on it? Because this WTC,
that means that it did not travel through the Earth. The signal didn't travel through the Earth.
So
that
basically,
2.3 was surface waves only.
So basically, almost nothing or nothing relevant or nothing massive hit the ground.
That's something that we would expect to see.
Not only that, it's like the only wave that was recorded was a surface wave, which is what you would get if you lifted the buildings off of the ground, and the ground now no longer had 1 million tons sitting on it. It kind of did a rebound.
Yeah.
That's all that was recorded, was the surface wave. And earlier there was a gas tank, storage tank in New Jersey that exploded. Somebody overfilled it and it exploded. Didn't even melt the steel, and it made. And this is above ground explosion, and it caused a 3.0 on the Richter scale, and also made it both an S wave and a P wave, as well as a surface wave.
And the same with WTC 7, where the magnitude was 0.6 for building that had a potential energy 10 times greater than the Seattle Dome, right? So there is this inconsistency.
6 times greater potential energy than the Seattle King Dome, but it made it 0.6 on the Richter scale, which is almost nothing. Think of a dump truck rolling down this empty dump truck rolling down the street, going over bumps in the street, boom, 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 boom. I mean, it's I think probably greater than that.
So all of
maybe
this,
not.
All of this is fairly conclusive or fairly strong evidence that the buildings did not just collapse in toto with their entire weight, the weight of the materials hitting the ground.
Exactly. The seismic thing is hard to get around. There's quite a few different recording stations, and they all agree. And Building 7, some of the recording stations, they could not even pick up a signal, difference out of background noise.
I was going to ask you what NIST made of all of this, but I presume that NIST just ignored it.
Oh, they correctly reported it. They just didn't know what. They didn't know what to consider.
But they didn't find it significant. Yeah.
And,
well, they didn't. They just kind of, wonder what to think of that. Now, one thing is interesting is I think NIST people probably were limited to what their conclusion could be, but what goes into the report, it has to be correct information. The data has to be correct. They can misinterpret it or omit it, but they can't put in Photoshop. They can't put in fake data. That's treason if they do that.
So they generally just glossed over stuff.
Right. And actually, in my book, I have literal quotes from the NIST report stating there's no S wave and P wave associated with it. Like, but they failed to make a conclusion from that, and the conclusion from it is if you don't have an S wave and a P wave, you don't have a signal traveling through the Earth. If the signal's not traveling through the Earth, the building didn't slam to the ground.
Well, they didn't give a conclusion, but they also didn't ask the question. That begged the question, right?
Right. They gave the data.
That was never asked. Yeah.
They gave the data.
if there was no seismic records or very faint ones, where did the towers go? There was not much debris. There was not much seismic records. So where are they? Where did they go?
There was a lot of dust there, and if you do some estimates about the depth of the dust, it's ankle deep, a half mile away, and you can kind of see from a satellite image a circular, area or an arc. And I estimated if that was a full circle, because you can't see what's in the river. If you estimate the size of that circle and approximate depth of it, and do some just average calculation, it does kind of jive with the amount of material gone. If you assume, certain kind of, density of it.
Okay, and a lot of dust. And what about debris? Because when you see pictures, for example, this picture that is as a free page in your book, the amount of debris is very, very small. There might be the equivalent of 1, 2, 3 stories of debris, where we expect maybe 20 or 30 stories high of debris.
Which page might you be referring to?
It's the pull-out page, the color insert.
The bookmark.
Yeah, the bookmark. Debris are very, very small compared to what we could expect.
Right, and it didn't spill much across the street.
Yeah, I think people can see with their own eyes what you have discovered based on your analysis, which is that a large part of the buildings do seem to have turned to dust rather than collapsed as largely intact pieces.
And we also saw a lot of the dust go up.
Indeed,
up into the air, yeah. So there was some kind of, almost like there was some kind of propulsion, but mechanism propelling this dust outwards and upwards.
Or taking it up, maybe it had, like helium balloons in it, taking it up, but it definitely went up, and it was, on a mission. It was going somewhere. Some of the satellite images that showed this sort of like tube of it just going up. And it really is curious why it would go up, but the fact that it went up, and we know that a significant amount went up because initially it blocked out 100% of the sunlight for several minutes. The people couldn't see their hand in front of their face. So we know it went up because it blocked out the sun. But also the fact that a significant amount of the dust went up means that whatever is left on the ground is a biased sample of it. You can't just analyze that dust because you don't know what went up, what part of it went up.
But in the analysis of that dust on the ground, was there anything anomalous about it?
The greatest thing, because a dustified building, it has constituents of everything that was in the building. The biggest thing to comment on is the size of it. That it was, a large portion of it was along the size of DNA, 1/100th of the size of red blood cells. So obviously, people inhaling that went right into their bloodstream. Their lung didn't filter that out at all.
Mm-hmm. Some kind of nano dust.
Just super nano. It's very, very small size particles.
In this dust, actually, you have all the content of the building. That is steel, furniture, concrete, and also human beings.
And there's the previous parts of this is that in one of the studies of the fumes coming off. Is that those fumes could not be high heat. That is what caused the fumes, because in those fumes, that's why I call it just generically fumes, whatever this foggy stuff is that rises up, is biological content, organic components, and you wouldn't have that if it was a vapor from heat. The material that vaporized, you wouldn't have that in there.
Exactly.
So that was analyzed, and there was organic content.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yes, that's in the book.
It brings to another point. One of the anomalies is this. It's difficult to use words because they are loaded, but those fumes, what we could call some kind of fires or glowing stuff, didn't seem to be associated with the usual heat and high temperature that goes with it.
Excellent. You deserve a great applause for that one. Yeah, the glowing stuff. Yeah, the orange stuff. Right. Yeah, what's associated with heat?
You mean in the rubble?
Yeah, people saw the orange stuff that was glowing. Well, the orange stuff that was glowing, some people say, oh, that's hot molten metal, or it's glowing red, red hot. But the stuff was sitting on paper that wasn't burning. So it can't be hot.
Although there does seem to have been reports, there are several reports. I mean, I'm relying on YouTube here and archive footage of firemen and rescue personnel, etc., working on the rubble for several weeks afterwards, making statements that it was hot.
Yes. Can you walk on your barbecue grill?
Well, no, they've said that their boots were melting and all this kind of stuff,
Right. See, if my steel oven, they said their steel-toed boots were melting. If my steel oven's melting, the turkey inside is more than well done. It's like, scorched to nothing.
Will be well cooked. So here the
Right.
range of temperature you're talking about.
So, but these are not material scientists. They're not also trained to analyze what they're doing. They're there for a different purpose. And people have questions, and as soon as they get an answer, they usually just run with it, especially in an emergency kind of situation or a traumatic event. They don't stop and analyze if that makes sense or not. Like the steel-toed boots melting. That was just repeated, and nobody realized that, why they were saying it. They just assumed it was true because somebody told them that, and it just goes on. And the weirdest one is the statement by Rudy Giuliani. I'm not judging him at all, and I sort of feel sorry for him for having said this because he's probably embarrassed now. But somebody apparently told him that the ground was 2,000 degrees right below him and fires would break out. He was talking about to the governor. Well, I could be standing here and you could be standing there, governor, and there'd be a fire break out between us.
Mm. There seems to be a
something
legend.
by an act of God, they weren't killed or something like that.
So Dr. Wood, you're saying that
it was
you're
hot.
suggesting, obviously you're suggesting that it was not hot, that this glowing red stuff was not hot?
Therefore was not fire.
If it's on a piece of paper and the paper's not burning.
Okay.
So I look at the evidence, not people's interpretation of the evidence. People can say, the steel-toed boots are melting, but you stop and think about it. If the feet inside aren't cooked, and the people have to get their legs amputated, how could they be going through how many pairs of steel-toed boots melting?
There seems to be a cause, a non-causative agent that leads some material, because it seems quite material specific, that bows, that bends, that soften those materials. At the same time, there's not these associated high temperatures.
Right, and people have their set views of life. They have like a set of multiple choices that they can pick from, and the right answer isn't in their set of choices. So they just pick one of them. Like that's why they say, hot rolling molten metal, because they don't know how to describe something that they've not been taught before.
Yeah, okay. Dr. Wood, we have a call here. I'm just going to go ahead and take it and see if anyone has an interesting question for you. Hi, caller. What's your name and where are you calling from? Hello? Caller?
Hello? Are you asking for me again?
Yes.
This is Pete. This is Pete Santilli. In the interest of full disclosure.
No, sorry. Pete, not you. Sorry.
Oh.
The other caller. Are you there?
Sorry, Pete.
Pete, not you. Sorry. Other caller. Are you there?
Hello.
Hello. Can you turn your speakers on?
There we go.
Thanks. We're getting feedback.
Okay. Thank you. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Betsy, and I'm calling from North Carolina.
Hi, Betsy. Hi.
Hi. How y'all doing?
Pretty good.
I just have a question for Dr. Wood. I'm curious how she determined. I totally agree with her. There is not enough debris. Definitely something's up that we haven't seen before, but I'd like to know how she determined that this was some type of energy weapon as opposed to, say, nanomachines, which we know the government already has. At least they've admitted it to a certain degree, which means they're probably a lot farther along in the development of nanomachines than they're letting us know. And it would account for all the other anomalies we see of the glowing metal and the whole 9 yards if this was done by something like that, or any other type of unknown technology. How did she eliminate those as opposed to the energy weapons?
There's three basic categories that I put weapons into. There's kinetic energy weapons that could destroy a building, including a wrecking ball, a missile, a hammer, a jackhammer, a bomb. It's something that physically hits something else and harms it that way. Then there's thermal energy weapons, heat. Was the building cooked to death? Was it melted? Was it vaporized because of this extremely high heat? And then the third category is energy weapons. These are just overall categories.
Well, you don't have the computerized weapons in there, the nanomachines. That's what I was asking.
What is their mode of operation? Is it disassembling the parts bit by bit, eating it up? Is it a nano termite that eats things, or what is it?
In the very simplistic terms, yeah, you could call them computerized termites. They go so incredibly fast. They're using them in the body now to eat plaque off the arteries.
Okay, if that goes fast, then that means obviously it's a kinetic energy weapon.
Okay, that's what I was. Okay. Something
that physically is touching something and taking it apart. If it's like a nanotermite, it's going to be eating thing. It's going to be taking bites out of it.
Right.
That's just like a mini bomb, taking bites out of it.
Billions of them. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm wondering, because when I saw that and I saw not enough debris to account for that entire building, but at the same time there is some debris, and just the way the fires broke out in certain areas. That's
the apparent fires.
Pardon me?
Apparent fires.
Called fire.
Yeah, the stuff with the flame coming out. Mm-hmm.
Right, there you go. Our language, is very biasing, and it's hard to pick neutral language, but it's important just to pick something. Instead of saying characteristic 297-5A, it's easier to pick another word like, what I use is Cheetos. The initial picture I saw, it looked like old Cheeto on the ground, orange thing that was glowing, but I ended up calling them Cheeto fires or, weird fires. Or
okay, the nanomachines could account for the Cheetos.
Because it works so fast that they heat up something?
If there was picture a cloud of 1 billion nanomachines that are released, suddenly in multiple locations, you would get the same effect that we saw in those videos.
Not really. If they're working so fast, eating this up, there's and using friction or mechanical force to take the building apart, there's going to be a lot of friction. There's going to be a lot of heat. And
that's where the heat came from. A nanomachine is most likely also to be using a chemical as opposed to a mechanical way of actually, turning, as you put, dustifying it.
So you would call it what you're saying is its action is a thermal energy weapon.
Say that again. What?
So you're saying it's actually it's acting as a thermal energy weapon. If it's working
I'm
so
saying
fast,
it could be either. I certainly don't know what it is, but I'm saying that nanomachines are being designed and already are in use to use both chemical and mechanical, so you really wouldn't know which one they would use.
But you can rule out a thermal energy weapon.
Why?
Because how many people were, I usually play maybe I could play it, there'd be a lot of heat involved.
Right.
How many people do you know who reported being blinded?
I don't have any of the stats on the people hurt in front of me at all. I do know a lot got out, which you'd think if an energy weapon was involved, it would be boom, instantaneous. I know lots of people got out down the stairs using their cell phones and whatnot. They had time to escape, so it wasn't an instantaneous vaporization.
No, but what you're assuming, it can't be an energy weapon because this is my idea of an energy weapon. So therefore, it doesn't fit my idea, so therefore it can't be an energy weapon. That's the argument you're using. You need to begin at the front end and do on the very most general basis you can do. Is an energy weapon is something that doesn't physically contact something. It doesn't destroy it by means of heat.
What does it use?
Think of different kinds of energy waves. For example, it's not usually used as a weapon, but a type of directed energy is a radio signal.
Well, I mean, please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it couldn't be an energy weapon. The question I was asking is, how did you decide it was an energy weapon as opposed to a nanomachine?
Looking at the evidence, we haven't quite gotten to that part, but there are images where you have steel beams falling through the air, and they never hit the ground because they turned into dust before they hit the ground.
Another thing here is that if we actually look at what Dr. Wood has written, is that we can't really determine what kind of weapon. I mean, we can get some ideas based on looking at the evidence, but it's too hard to say exactly what kind of weapon was used.
Yeah, that was my point.
But we can say what category of weapon. We can know what we can rule out.
How would we do that?
Know what you know that you know. Know what you know that you know. Now, here's something that may have been missing on 9/11. Let's see if I can play it here. Wait a minute. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Earth Band, blinded by the light. How many people on 9/11 were blinded by the light? If something is using high heat, if it's going to be glowing because it's hot, you'd have that thing lit up like 4th of July sparkler. And you didn't see any blinding light coming out of the thing. Also, there were 14 people in stairwell B who walked out on their own. There's 2 more above where these guys were trapped in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floor, that area. But there's 2 more above that in stairwell B who survived even though the building didn't.
Without burns.
And then there's another group. So they walked out on their own. They didn't complain of being cooked to death.
So what you're saying, it would have to be an energy weapon, but it could be an energy weapon planted inside a nanomachine.
We're not getting into guessing at this, that, and the other. We just keep it in the general categories: a thermal energy device,
we got some ground to cover. We've got some ground to cover before we can answer those questions, Betsy. So, but thanks for your call.
All right.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
You. And maybe we can.
Let me just go to Pete. Pete, are you there?
I am, and I'm so sorry that you guys had my line open. I didn't expect to be on. Yes.
I know. I'm sorry for keeping you on the line there, but if you have a question for Dr. Wood, can you just get it out there, or a statement, or a comment, and just make it brief? Thanks.
Yeah, I'm gonna make it brief, but and in the interest of full disclosure, I've had pretty much all of my answers to my questions provided by Dr. Wood. I've actually had her on my show. There was a comment here, and then I'll get off the line. I don't need to be on here, and Dr. Wood will do just fine. But you opened up the show, and this is my main thing that I would like to convey and ask why anyone would say that it is an attack by Arab terrorists. What I've been able to determine through looking at and learning from Dr. Judy Wood is that it being the Arab terrorist has nothing to do with the evidence whatsoever. As a matter of fact, the evidence, quite frankly, points in a completely different direction. But one thing that I would like to share before I leave is that the most important thing that I've learned is that by shows like this regurgitating the terminology of the Psy-Op, I think it's prolonged the Psy-Op to about 12 years. You got to be really, really cautious, and I've learned that. But Dr. Wood, don't you agree that by using their terminology over and over and over again, it perpetuates the Psy-Op? Don't you agree with that?
Oh, as well as just making assumptions like steel-toed boots melting, or all steel shipped to China, or Larry Silverstein's putting it's just all this mantra that just gets regurgitated over and over again, and people stay locked into their assumptions of what happened instead of looking at the evidence. And what I've come to realize is how easy it is to run a cover-up. What you can do is get people to jump in and start guessing. It was this kind of weapon. It was that kind of weapon. It was a nanobot. It was a thermite. It was a this or that. But what they're doing, if they jump into how it was done without looking at what was done, they're having to assume what was done. So they're solving an imaginary problem, not a real problem, and they can never, ever, ever solve it that way. So they just go round, arguing about their opinions of speculation, of theories, of hypotheses, and this, and never getting anywhere. And they don't realize that they just need to look at the evidence. Like on day one, look at the TV set. It's showing a building turning into dust in midair. Why, for almost 12 years, have people been unable to see that? That is
very true.
Psy-Op.
Pete, I'm going to let you go.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for the call.
And maybe we can go back to empirical evidence and observation. This causative agent seemed to have had some effect on the molecular level. Maybe you can talk a bit about those very quick rustification and separation of carbon and iron in steel material.
Right. It's steel. What I've seen looking at various other parallel evidence. I'm not saying what did it. I can say, it's like I draw a circle around what I've found everything, and then I can toss out of that what it can't be, like thermal energy weapons or kinetic energy weapons. And so it does leave us with some type of energy that was directed and used as a weapon. And what I mean by directed is it's directed geographically, those with WTC prefix for the most part, and also directed as in giving it instructions to do something differently than it normally does. Energy usually, you have molecules attract each other. The evidence shows that they suddenly start repelling each other. They're doing the opposite of what they normally do.
Okay.
And when they start repelling each other, I've looked at other types of known technologies that do this, And my analogy for this is like you have like musical chairs. When the music's playing, people are up and walking around, then somebody pulls out a chair. When the music stops, you have to sit down. Somebody misses out because one of the chairs is gone. And then the music plays and they're up moving around again. If you use that analogy and say, well, this energy field is in effect, that's directing, the music, that the molecules kind of let go of each other. And when the music stops, they reconnect. But if while they're up, moving around, floating around, if there's like steel is made mostly of iron, but it has other things in there like carbon, and it enhances its mechanical properties. It also enhances its resistance to environmental degradation. If the music stops and the carbon doesn't get back to where it was, then you could have pure iron on the surface. And if you look at this steel, it looks like it rusts instantly like iron was. You get an iron skillet in your sink and you scrub it with soap, you take all the grease out of it, walk away and come back, that thing's bright orange, like just this uniform rust all over it. And there's a lot of the steel pipes that look like that, as well as some vehicles. It's just instant rust. And regular steel, like on cars, does not rust like that. So that's another indication that something upset the molecular structure of the surface.
Okay. Dr. Wood, we actually have a guest in the studio with us today. His name is Arkadiusz Jadczyk. He's a mathematical physicist, and just on your comment about kind of directed energy weapons, and almost like that they were informed or in some way or you said they were changed. Like, I mean, the idea being that to justify
energy was directed
and changed
call it
in some
instructed
way.
energy weapon.
Instructed in some way to change to do something to physical matter. Is
right.
that a very basic idea?
The energy field, but there's a whole lot of evidence that needs to go behind that before you can start, jumping into. You kind of jumped ahead for some reason. But if you look at, for example, the vehicles, the toasted cars that were all over Manhattan, and they appeared to go into spontaneous combustion without either. They're way far away, too far for the burning material to be hitting them, and not, the sea of unburned paper in between. Also, it wasn't a thermal thing, so there's some type of energy effect. You see that, after you accumulate, mountains of evidence to look at that.
Yeah, but the reason I introduced Arkadiusz, who's a physicist here with us, is because just to get his input on that idea of, from the point of view of theoretical physics, if that idea of a directed energy weapon that was instructed in some way is...
Here's what I would like to say that's vitally important. We saw these steel beams falling and turning into dust in midair, and they did not hit the ground. We have plenty of evidence from all different sources and different ways that establish that the steel, as it was falling, turned into dust in midair. Much of it. I'm not saying every speck of it, but the majority of it did. Yeah. And do you agree with that?
We do. What I'm trying to do here, if you give me a moment, what I'm trying to do here is ask Arkadiusz for his opinion on the possibility of on the basic idea of a directed energy weapon. That's all I want to do, and I think he might provide some corroborating evidence.
Here's something that I would like to finish the saying is: do you agree that the majority of the building turned to dust in midair?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. You agree. Now,
absolutely, but you got to understand.
No, hang on. There's a second part of that question. There's a second part of that question.
Go ahead.
The second part of that question is: does there exist a technology that can do that?
That's the question I want to ask him.
Oh, you're saying something impossible happened? That what happened was impossible?
No.
The fact that it happened. Happened is proof that it happened.
Dr. Wood, you're preaching to the choir. You don't have. we believe you here. We
agree, and the reason I'm bringing it.
What I am responding to is the people who say you don't have any proof of this weapon. The proof of the weapon is evidence.
At the moment, I'm trying to give our resident physicist, theoretical physicist, an opportunity to provide perhaps some corroborating evidence for what you're saying at that level of directed energy. Can you hold on for a second and let him speak?
Right, but I would like to finish that point. Is that the fact that the building is turning into dust in midair? That is observable to anyone.
We see that.
That is proof that a weapon to make it do that exists.
Okay, and I want now our physicist to maybe to pitch in on the actual evidence in the world of theoretical physics for that kind of a weapon existing. So, Ark.
Yes. Hello. Hi, Judy. You said in your book that what you provide, the hypothesis is a suggestion, right? It's a suggestion.
What is a suggestion?
Oh, this effect or another effect, we don't really know, right?
No, this isn't a suggestion that the building turned into dust in midair. That's pretty well established from empirical evidence. So that is proof that
you use the term energy. How do you know it was energy and not information weapon? At the level of quantum information.
It was not a kinetic energy weapon. It wasn't a kinetic energy. And by the way, the way I define directed energy is energy that's directed and used as a weapon. And that
How do you know it was energy? How do you know it was energy?
That also includes antimatter. I mean, it's a very general category, directed energy. It's non-contact. It doesn't destroy the building with heat. It doesn't, the building wasn't pounded to death, nor was it cooked to death.
Where is the energy? Well, how do you know it's energy and not information? Some kind of quantum on the quantum level.
Energy is manipulated within the material to do something differently than it normally does.
How do you know it's energy being manipulated and not just molecular bonding? And
molecular bonding is an energy.
Well,
molecular bonding is an energy.
No. And molecular bonding, you define as energy, but in fact, it's
That's right. It's a type of energy, and you're instructing that energy to do something differently than it normally does.
Instruct, you see. So it's an information.
That's what I was saying before. You can say instructed energy weapon. That's what I mean by directed energy. It's energy that's directed or instructed.
All right.
It's directed. Energy that's directed and used as a weaped. That is in my book. If you look in the back, and I also divide them into hot, directed energy weapons, and there's cold directed energy weapons, or CDU. And if you want to get particular about this, this is some sort of a CDU. It's a cold direct energy weapon. It doesn't.
All right. You call it directed now, but it was not very precisely directed because some cars were destroyed and some other nearby were not. Right.
Part of the effect. That is part of the effect. It isn't. This isn't a point and shoot like a laser beam deal.
Right.
This is a field effect thing, and it has to do with the interference of different types of fields, from what I can tell. And as the parallel evidence shows in the book, I show parallel evidence to this.
Okay, right. But we are not sure that it's also electromagnetic effect, right? We don't know what.
Right. I can see, how you can produce parallel evidence. I've demonstrated that in a lot of different ways. You look at the reaction of tornadoes. There's a lot of similarities with here. Levitation. I showed in my presentations the videos from a year ago where those trucks over Dallas-Fort Worth were elevated. They were levitated. They were, flying trucks, several hundred feet off the ground. Yet when they crash land, they didn't get totally, smashed to smithereens. And people who have been picked up by tornadoes, they can still breathe. There's something else going on with the tornadoes. It's a different type of energy field. And as for people who, claim that you need to calculate, how much energy requires, well, what kind of energy? You have to make an assumption then. But to know that a tornado, destroyed a large portion of Topeka, Kansas in the late 60s, do you need to calculate how much energy is possible to know if that tornado really did destroy those buildings? No, tornadoes, you know that they do it because you saw it got done. You need to make no assumptions then. It's just direct observation. So that we can see that type of evidence. We can also see, the work of John Hutchison, the work of George Pigott, the work of Thomas Townsend Brown, and of course the work of Nikola Tesla. But the people who are in books who are no longer around, we're having to rely on these stories in books. That's what I refer to it as. But John Hutchison lives in the here and now, and I can go to his lab and have him demonstrate in front of me, which I did.
These are the effects that we know about, but there are probably many more effects that we don't know about, right?
Right. But I've seen how this parallel evidence is produced, and when I came upon that, it was pretty amazing. I'd already tabulated all of the different pieces of evidence, and I didn't feel compelled to say it was this, this is how it happened, how it was done. No, I just said these are all the things I was noticing. And then when I came upon the Hutchison effect, I realized, when I came upon John Hutchison's blog, I realized, wait a minute, these are all of the same effects. How interesting. How does he do it? Let's go see what he does. And so this, I'm not saying that is what did this. I'm saying this is parallel evidence. And actually, George Pigott, who's no longer with us, and he got a patent on that same type of thing. In it was awarded in 1911, radiant electrical energy, where he was levitating things using a static field and something else. But it's these things that we're just not taught in our books, but that exist if you observe it. Like especially tornadoes. People can feel a storm coming because they feel a change in the environment.
In the airport. Judy, yeah. I want to make another comment about what you wrote in your book. Okay, as a scientist, as a physicist, you wrote that this is a kind of energy or phenomenon that can be used as a weapon, or it can be used for good, right?
Exactly.
Now, but I am not so sure that we
could be used for good.
Can have full control over these things and that it really can be used for good. I am not sure that whoever did it has a full control. And I don't know the price for that. Maybe the price is so high that it cannot be repeated. What would you say?
What I say is that we know this weapon exists because we saw that it was used. We saw the results, so we know it exists. And if that exists, and we keep our mouths shut and don't say anything about it, it's going to be used again and perhaps do worse things. So we're not making the world any safer by not talking about it.
Well, it depends on the price, right? It depends on the price.
Well, it exists. It's good. Somebody has this weapon, and if one person doesn't have it, another person will have it. This weapon already exists. The cat's out of the bag.
But this is not like Kalashnikov that you go to the store and buy for $100. It may such a thing to arrange such a thing may cost more than the biggest nation can afford, right?
But it exists. It exists. That's the fact.
Yeah,
now,
but it may be not.
There's something else I point out in the book, and it's something that I've been really intrigued about with both Nikola Tesla and Ed Leedskalnin, who built Coral Castle. One grew up in Serbia, and the other one grew up in Latvia. Similar areas of the world.
Judy, Big Bang happened, right?
May I finish this important piece of information? There's something in common with both of these people. Like Ed Leedskalnin, who built Coral Castle, lifting these 15-ton stones by himself with this little, rinky-dink chain. because did something very interesting that he wouldn't show anybody, and why would he do it in secrecy? He'd be working at night, and if anyone looked, he'd stop working. And I believe the reason why he did that is because people need to earn the right to this technology. If you grow up an entire generation understanding what this can do, only then can you use it. Now, it's like guns. You don't leave the gun cabinet unlocked unless everybody in the family knows what guns can do. And so if you grow up a generation understanding what it can do, then you're on your road to being able to perhaps develop a different type of civilization that can have respect for this technology and use it for good. I'm not saying it happens overnight, but understanding what it can do, understanding what it did on 9/11 is vital. If everyone knows that what happened, there's no secret anymore. And so if it's used again, people can point and say, aha, that person's confessing. They have that gizmo. Let's go get them. Whatever the response would be. But it would be recognizable.
Yeah, I understand. I understand both points of view. Clearly, Dr. Wood has one point. We saw the effects of this unknown technology. And actually, it's kind of historic moment from a scientific point of view, because for the first time in the history of humanity, we saw the display, the effect of this unknown technology. Now, will it be used? Will it be used again? When will it be used? Will it be used for good, for bad? I guess the future is open, and we will see.
But educating the public as to how to recognize it keeps it safer than not doing so.
Definitely, and at the same time, you kill two birds with one stone, because at the same time you show that the current mainstream theory and the current alternative theories are not the truth. They don't fit with the facts and the evidence.
That's not so much my objective. That's it's sort of like a as I often put it, that if you don't like the lie behind door number one, they'll give you a lie behind door number two. If you don't like that, they'll give you a lie behind door number three. Anything to keep you from looking at the open field behind you with all the evidence that shows you exactly what happened. And it's also part of my motivation is to educate people how to think through things rather than, it's this, this person says this and this person says, I guess we'll never figure out what happened. I have no idea how to figure something out. Like what I say about Sandy Hook is, know what you know that you know. Well, you know nothing about it. You can't solve it. Move on. Don't start theorizing, hypothesizing, speculating, and arguing about opinions of whatever, because it's useless. It's important to be able to first determine what happened before you can go anywhere else. Because if you go anywhere else, you're assuming what the problem is, and you're solving an imaginary problem.
Okay, can we get into some more of the actual details that are in the book of the evidence for that what happened is so far from the official story as to be just ridiculous. The high strangeness, can I call it high strangeness?
Yeah.
The high strangeness aspect of it.
Something that struck me was Dr. Wood has collected a number of eyewitness statements where people describe being lifted up at the moment or just before the collapse and apparently flung a whole block or so, and yet more or less walking up and getting away without a scratch. There are a few stories about
that
what's going on.
Was injured, but there's the EMT who floated down a flight of stairs, and with her worldview of things, how could she have levitated and floated down the stairs? So she decided she must have died and God carried her down the stairs, because she's trying to she needed to get an answer to her question about why she floated down the stairs. But you do see many things like that, and the biggest tell of that type of thing was, why are the cars parked upside down? The leaves are still in the trees. It wasn't a horrendous wind. And there was one fellow who, when WTC-2 was coming apart, he dove under an emergency vehicle, and then everything went black, and he thought he was buried in a tunnel or something. And then eventually the sunlight came in, and the sunlight came in. There was no vehicle on top of him. He had no idea where the vehicle went. He didn't know if it if it blew off of him or flew up, or he had no idea where it went. It was gone.
God did it. And maybe
right.
Something strange also is we won't call it the smoke because it suggests strongly notion of heat and fire, but let's call it fumes. Can you talk a bit more about those fumes that don't follow the direction of the wind, that last for literally weeks, that only go out from one side of a building?
The ones that they came out of one side only.
Yeah.
I use the term lather because it's
lather,
opaque. You can't see through it. It's just that's my term, my sort of like placeholder. If you don't know what the phenomena is, don't give it a name of a known phenomenon because you're misleading. So I give it. Nobody's going to mix this up with shower lather. But you get this opaque stuff coming out, and I put that as separate from Alka-Seltzer. So when the steel beams are falling, this opaque dust is flowing off of them, where this stuff's obviously coming apart. I think it's the same thing, the same phenomenon, that the buildings are standing still and they're lathering up. They're Alka-Seltzering. There's a lot of material pouring off them.
It's almost like they were being dissolved in the solution. I mean, there's this. Go ahead.
As I've said about like Alka-Seltzer tablets, they're a rigid object as long as they're dry. But you change their environment, you put them in water, they effervesce and dissolve. Well, steel in its normal environment is rigid and a solid. You change its environment, it effervesces and dissolves. So we need to figure out, what about its environment did that to it. So some environmental change that caused that to happen. And as I, when I introduce some of these images in my presentations, I give people this mental exercise to help them see that's not just a little bit of dust blowing off the steel beam. So, okay, say you're going to impersonate the steel beam, this one in the picture. So what do? You jump off you cover yourself with dust, jump off the top of the building. Okay, people from the ground looking up, do they see that kind of dust trailing off you? No, the dust is blown off and gone immediately. Okay, so you take a couple of armloads of bags of flour, and as you jump off, you're heaving that flour out as fast as you can. You're going to run out of flour pretty fast and still not be able to produce an opaque dust trail. So pretty soon you come to realize that steel beam must be frothing up into dust and turning to dust. And then, you look at the ground where it was headed towards, and you see no solid steel beams on the ground.
Okay, I have a question, actually, that interests me, because I'm not a scientist, is the problem. That I can't really evaluate the evidence, very directly, because, of course, I don't have the scientific training. But I do have a curiosity. Now, in your presentation, you talked about, I think it was Hurricane Aaron was off the coast of New York. And you also talk about the tornadoes in various areas, and you showed some videos in your presentation of, like, tractor-trailer trucks flying through the air as if they were, paper, and then landing and rolling and stuff like that. So it was very interesting. And I just wanted to ask, is it possible that the hurricane was actually, because in your presentation you indicate perhaps that the hurricane may have been deflected or had some sort of interaction with it, but would it be possible that the hurricane was an integral component of the situation? I mean, if you're talking about like when a tornado or a hurricane goes through, weird stuff happens. I'm from Florida. Boards go through trees. Weird stuff happens in a hurricane, right? So is it possible that the hurricane was in some way actually a part of the process? That it wasn't that somebody has a gun and they stood up on a building and pointed it, but that the presence of the hurricane was essential to the situation? Exactly. I look at, what I know, parallel evidence. I also know the limit of what I know that I know that I know. And anything beyond that is speculation, and I don't like to go there. It's okay to step aside into a parallel box and test an idea, but not to mix that in with the exact scenario. But what I do know is that this hurricane was aimed straight for New York City for 4 days, and then they knew it was going to turn out at some point because of the high pressure system coming. And they did these text messages that on day one they thought it was going to turn around, it didn't. They thought on day two it was going to turn around, it didn't. They thought on day three it was going to turn around, it didn't. They thought it was going to turn around on day four,
It's a good thing it did because it was right, right outside. I mean, it didn't have any more leeway there. It was actually raining in Cape Cod then from the outer bands. But what was so strange about it is that the very underreporting of it. It was just, people didn't realize it was there. And also this high-pressure system met up and did battle with the two weather systems right at, the maximum pressure. This high-pressure system, as it moves in, you can see the pressure at JFK Airport going up. And then it immediately starts going down, so you can tell the two systems that were mixing at that point, and doing battle with each other. And that was, coincidentally, 10 a.m. on 9/11. With the peak of that pressure chart. But so this is a fact, keeping separate. But it was so puzzling that how could they be absolutely sure that this hurricane was going to turn around when it did at the last minute, to the point that they didn't even warn people of, when Hurricane Rita was going towards Houston, they gave a certain time of voluntary evacuation, then it became mandatory. Like Hurricane Bill that was heading towards New York City a few years ago, they were suggesting, a voluntary evacuation. And Hurricane Irene, I think that become mandatory, but if they don't know, they give people warning because you can't evacuate millions of people from Manhattan in 1 hour, or 2 hours. So that was, drew my attention. So I won't make the last step and say I know it was controlled, but what I will say is it seems that they were absolutely 100% sure they knew it was not going to be, making landfall or doing anything. But they did, I believe.
Well, in that I wasn't suggesting that it was controlled. I was wondering if maybe something was harnessed about it.
Oh, yeah. But we do know that, so I looked at what hurricanes can do. By the way, I think they closed Atlantic City Beach, because of the undertow from the storm. They took the various battleships out to sea so they wouldn't get beat up against the docks. But anyway, ahead of a storm system, there's a type of energy field and often people with arthritis say they can feel a storm coming because they feel that change. It's not just the pressure change, there's some electricity in the air. And when it's interesting, when I fly out to Seattle and the plane's landing, I start feeling really good. Man, when it just feels so good. It's like home again. You feel elated. And I have a feeling it has something to do with the weather systems there, that there's a lot of ionic, exchange. But I'm not talking about the cloud cover issue, but the electrical feeling, why people feel good next to waterfalls.
Yeah.
So think of the structure of a Tesla coil. You have this wrap around the stem, then you have this toroid wrap around the top. If you look at how a tornado, I haven't tornado, but how a hurricane is, the anatomy of that, it's very similar. And you can easily see that if water is going around, if a very moist air is going around in there, you could have conductivity. So it's like a supersized Tesla coil that's going to create a static field. And then I looked at the reports at the various airports, major airports surrounding Manhattan. Newark Airport, JFK Airport, and LaGuardia Airport all reported thunder on 9/11.
Electric discharge.
Yeah. So, and that comes ahead of a storm. When Hurricane Wilma was hitting the Yucatan Peninsula, I remember I was talking to my students one morning. There's a lot of hurricanes that year, and I put pictures of them on my desktop of my computer for the PowerPoint presentations. Just had there, just out of chit chat before class starts. And I said, I think this thing's going to make a right angle turn and go back and hit Fort Myers, Florida. They said, well, how do you know that? Because they say it's going to go up towards New Orleans. And I said, I read this morning that the birds left town.
So here's another thing.
If birds leave town, they know the storm's coming that way.
So the other thing that I wanted to ask about was, in your presentation, you talked about that there were measurable fluctuations in the Earth's magnetic field or something like that, that there was some sort of magnetic field problem, that there were spikes or dips or something like that at the time of the fall that lasted for the time of the fall that that were grotesquely curious. They were out of proportion to anything you were seeing normally.
Well,
everything's going along, and then boom.
They weren't necessarily out of proportion, but they were all doing it at the same time. For like 3 or 4 days beforehand, you can see they're averaging within certain bounds. And about 20 minutes before the North Tower got its hole, the first event of the day, you see them all trending down. All 6 of them trending down, and precisely when the North Tower gets its hole, they start trending back up. And precisely when the South Tower gets its hole,
how often is that seen? Is that something that's seen?
You see, various anomalous signals, quite frequently.
Yeah, okay.
But the fact that we have 5 events that day, and all 5 of them, there was abrupt changes.
Mm-hmm.
At the precise time. Actually, the NIST report, the Palisades seismographic station, and the 9/11 Commission report all give different times, exact times for when the North Tower got its hole. And I like to joke and say I can tell you which one's right based on the magnetic field, because that actually it falls right in that cluster of those 3 times that are given. They're all within, I think, 30 seconds.
So, Dr. Wood, I appreciate that my questions are not, completely 100% scientific. So, I mean, I hope that you'll forgive me for that, because I'm not a scientist.
You forgive me for getting me on track.
Absolutely. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. I love the presentation. I thought it was great. I thought it was kind of a little bit strange. You keep having problems with clickers, and I thought that there was maybe a conspiracy behind that. But in the video, halfway through your presentation, the clicker fails, and then that happens on a second presentation as well, which I thought was kind of interesting. Is that something that happens to you a lot?
I don't know which one you're speaking of.
There's a video on your site of your presentation.
Yeah, the latest
one
from
the energy conference. That one. Also, some of the videos didn't actually run, and when they inserted some, things were not quite the same, but they did an excellent job overall of the editing.
It was great, actually. It was a very, very compelling video. So I have one last question, and this one is a little bit. It's kind of some thought that occurs to me. Why haven't they used this particular method again? Now, I'm not saying that they should be using it every day, but
how do you know they have it? You've assumed they have it. How do you know that?
Right. Well, I don't. Okay, so I'm not assuming. Hold on, we're not assuming anything. We're just saying, okay, have we seen evidence of it being used again? Okay, that's a valid question. So if you know of evidence of them doing it again.
I haven't studied other events as strictly, but there's events that I'm very suspicious of that point in that direction very strongly. For example, Oklahoma City. Yeah, Oklahoma City. You've got these cylindrical cutouts in the building. Look, virtually identical to the ones in Building 6. And I show this on the front page of my website. I say history repeats, I think, with a question mark. And nearly, can you tell the difference? And I give you a hint that only one of them has wheat checks at the bottom. And also one of them's 9 stories tall, one of them's 8 stories tall. But you get the same pattern where there's these cylindrical cutouts. Now, a bomb down there on the road, making no divot in the road and making cylindrical cutouts in the building.
Well, I think any reasonable person who has looked at the Oklahoma City bombing is pretty convinced that it was not a truck sitting out front on the street. Considering the fact that but in that sense,
if you see the image from the roof of the mirror building, you see these distinct, scallops.
Yeah.
And also, I have on my website, in part of my response to when I was gathering my data together, my response to NIST, and when they're saying, they're saying, well, you need to show evidence that ARA is a manufacturer and developer of energy weapons. And I showed a short course that they had advertised on their website that looked like a model of that exact thing with the scallops.
So even considering Oklahoma City, I'm afraid that my question still kind of stands. I mean, because it seems to be a rather perfect.
What do you mean?
My question is why don't they use it more often? right? I mean,
Well,
it should be kind of like the go-to weapon. You know,
well, for what?
I mean,
What's the purpose? What's the objective? You got to figure out what their objective is to know whether
right,
or not.
But again, you know, there we're having again the problem of you're coming into like the conspiracies that you're always saying. You know, hold on, let's not go there. Let's figure out what happens.
But you're asking
what
the question
happened,
why
how.
they haven't used it. You're asking why they haven't used it.
Why?
Yeah, you're asking why they haven't used it. That requires knowing what the job is that they're assigned to go do.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Because, okay, if a policeman has a gun, he fires it a lot of times. People fire guns all the time because a gun is a very optimized weapon for killing people. If that's what you want to do,
but
right?
a gun,
forgetting about the one.
Hang on.
Forgetting about
gun is also used to start a bike race.
Yes, exactly. So they're used a lot, right? You know, I mean, when you have it, it's like this utilitarian thing, right?
Right. Just because you have a gun doesn't mean you have to use it for the same thing. So you need to know what.
No, you don't. You don't. But, okay, so if you have evidence that this is being used all the time, okay, I'm totally interested in that evidence. But I'm just saying that I haven't seen that it's being used.
We still have this problem. You are assuming a different. What problem are you trying to solve? You are
I'm just asking the question. I'm asking the question of why don't we see buildings coming down like the Twin Towers in terrorist attacks more often? I mean, you'd think that if this weapon existed,
you know, why does that? You know, why is that required? Why is that the objective? You got to first determine what the objective is before you can determine if that is appropriate.
Well, okay.
You know, is this the right weapon for the job? Well, you got to know what the job is that needs to get done. You know, for example, in the Middle East, let's just we're off the parallel world here. We can speculate in this parallel world.
Yeah.
Just looking at an example, because that's what you're doing. You're speculating. Let's speculate. You know, the objective is just to wreak havoc all over the Middle East and just have everybody fight with everybody, just keep everything all in turmoil and stir it up. You wouldn't want a nice, clean weapon that cleanly, boom, takes out something. No, that's counter, productive. If you want to just wreak havoc. So, like in Manhattan, it was a very surgical destruction. If you wanted to wreak havoc in New York City, you would tip the building over and take out all Manhattan, which wouldn't happen. So your objective matters, and whether or not that's what you would want to use. Also, the more that it's used, the more it might get found out.
Yeah, true.
You know, the cat would be out of the bag more loudly.
Yeah, good point. That's true. Dr. Wood, if you want, we're going to go back to observation, because your book is really packed with observation, with evidence, and often the people who agree with the controlled demolition theory mention those successive explosion, and you have some interesting analysis, some interesting observation about this point. So how could it be explained? Those explosions.
Well, I don't look to explain it away. I look at what I have evidence of. There's evidence of people talking about hearing explosions. They don't see a bomb.
True.
There's no evidence of anyone who saw a bomb explode. They hear things go boom. Well, we know that bombs go boom, but we also know that everything that goes boom is not a bomb. You know, your microwave oven. You put egg in there, it goes boom. It doesn't mean somebody put a bomb in it. So whatever is happening, it appears that hearing booms is part of it. Well, if you're going to be dustifying the entire building, you have at least above a certain level, you're going to have pressure vessels in there. When the walls of those pressure vessels is weakened, at some point it can no longer hold the pressure, and it's going to go boom. Like a balloon. You know, if you start, you put some, let's see, what kind of material is good for deteriorating the rubber on a balloon? You put that, set the balloon on it, at some point it's going to rupture that balloon. It's going to go pop. It's going to go bang. That doesn't mean a bomb went bang.
Like those oxygen tanks? And the oxygen tanks carried by firemen?
Yeah, there's the observations that were identified as what went boom are at ground level. There were extra air tanks, like the firefighters wear air tanks so they can breathe clean air when they're fighting fires, and they're called Sott tanks. And there's quite a few observations of Sott tanks exploding or letting go and going boom. And they were sitting on fire trucks at ground level or in ambulances. And so that's one thing we can identify that went boom. So that shows that pressure vessels were going boom.
Yeah, and that would explain the reports from witnesses saying they heard explosions. And it doesn't mean that's necessarily explosive planted in the building. And another quote-unquote evidence brought by defenders of the controlled demolition theory that there were traces of nanothermite in the rubbles. Actually, it's the correct phrasing is traces of thermitic material. Can you tell us more about it?
Oh, I don't disagree that there was thermitic material there, because what thermitic material is what powdered aluminum and iron oxide.
And the buildings were made of steel and therefore iron and aluminum.
Right. So if you dustify the building, which we saw what was happening, you dustify aluminum, you dustify and also you have molecular dissociation of the steel, so you have the carbon out of it. You just have the iron. You get little specks of iron. They're going to instantly rust in atmospheric conditions. So you're going to have iron oxide. So what you would expect to find in the dust is aluminum powder and iron oxide. That is what they're calling thermitic material.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like just diverting people away from the fact that the buildings turned to dust.
Okay.
Exactly.
They absolutely did. Dr. Wood, we have a call here.
If thermite had been used, the towers would look like a glowing sparkle. I could play my recording again about blinded by the light, and that didn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. We have a call here. We're going to take it to see if we have an interesting question for you.
Okay.
Hi, caller. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Corey. I'm calling from Iowa.
Hi, Corey.
Welcome, Corey.
Hey, I actually had a really quick question for Art. A while back, he had said something about the cost associated with using this weapon, and I was wondering if he was referring to just the financial costs of putting something like this together, or if he was talking about something else.
Okay, well, let Art answer that one.
Thank you.
Was that it?
Well, my answer will be short. There are financial costs and political costs.
Okay.
Could be both.
That was also human cost. I mean, you could destroy the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I was actually wondering if it was more along the lines of opening a time-space continuum type thing.
You never know.
My mind.
Yeah, you never know.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Corey.
You never know because, I mean, are they tinkering with forces they don't really understand? Well,
Well, they seem to understand them pretty well in 9/11. If we're talking about some kind of...
Not entirely. There's something that really gave me the creeps that night. I came upon John Hutchison's work. I started reading about it because I thought, whoa, these are all the same phenomena. And there's a phenomenon that was not seen by most people is that this comment about the Hutchison effect is if there's, the more mass involved, the less likelihood it is to be self-quenching. That really got to me because that is what I noticed in the evidence, the fact that it was ongoing. It didn't stop. It, gradually wound down, but it was an ongoing thing that, it went for years. It went for days, weeks, months. There's pictures into, end of October where you have these, looks like fuzz coming out of the ground through wet dirt. And, the stories of fires for 99 days, that was a good cover for why you had this fuming coming up. The fuming diminished, but it still kept coming up. And you think about why they had to build water fountains on the foundation. Kind of brings up some other questions about why they, it's just, and other sites where they've built water fountains.
Yeah, what we can speculate here that this dustification process, the one who manage it, who use it, are not necessarily able to study this specific time, and more importantly, they're not necessarily able to stop it totally at another specific time. It's an ongoing process that you cannot break this easily.
There's another piece of data that came to mind was when they tested the first atomic bomb, the folks who decided to go forward with the test knew that the scientists did not know if it would be self-quenching. In other words, would they destroy the planet?
Yeah, I mean, wow, they are playing with, well, they're not playing with fire, they're playing with...
And they still went forward with that. So, humans who are, power hungry, perhaps, would indeed go forward with something, not knowing if it was self-quenching or not, or the length of it.
And Dr. Wood, you just said they.
Whoever they are, the crew. I refer to the crew.
Do you, at any point, publicly speculate on the they?
No, and I don't think we can get there from here. I know who knows, and they were defendants in my court case, which is probably why the Court of Appeals, denied the case going forward, even stating in their written decision, very respectfully, that they were ignoring the law to dismiss the case.
Yeah, they had to.
Right, because if I have as my defendants people who, almost surely know who did it, because their area of expertise is energy weapons. So they not only know, also they had a contract with, and still do, with the U.S. government to know everything about any weapon of mass destruction is being developed or has been developed anywhere. So not only do they know, recognize what kind of weapon it is, they probably know whose weapon it was, what fingerprints. Mm-hmm. And so if you put that person under oath, you can't do that in, open court. So you can't hold behind closed doors without letting the cat out of the bag as to why you're holding behind closed doors. It's somebody's. So that's about the closest we could have gotten. I don't know, who did it, but I know who likely knows who did it. That's as close as I can get. But I can also see various scenarios when people say, "Oh, it's the U.S. government." I tend not to think so because it's too large of a mass. That doesn't mean somebody doesn't have a gun to their head to tell them to, behave this way or that way.
Saying the U.S. government is a very broad description. I mean, it's not very specific.
And something I started saying, nearly from the beginning, this scenario, and it seems almost be coming true. For an example, and people would need an example for, well, of course the U.S. government did it. Give me an example of, otherwise. And I said, okay, again, this is hypothetical. Let's say you're one of a handful of people that wants to take over the U.S. government, take over the whole country. You don't go in the front door because the U.S. military would come get you and you'd be done with. So what you do is you have this weapon or access to the weapon, a gunpoint or whatever, and you dustify the towers and Pentagon or whatever, and then you start a truth movement going to get the country to destroy itself from within. You get the people to hate their government so badly they want any government but the one they have. Then you walk in the front door and they welcome you with open arms. Piece of cake. And that
problem
looks
reactions.
Like it looks like it might actually be, kind of playing itself out here. But people are just, they're so eager to blame the government, they don't look at why they've been let that and the cost of that.
Right, and the problem that people think is that there's no the government. I mean, was the Department of Transportation in on it, type of thing? I mean, the government is a huge thing. I mean, it's highly unlikely that, a whole bunch of people were in on it, I mean, so even those people who come along and say, oh, we need to get rid of the government, it's like, actually, that's a really bad idea, be honest, because
that's
no
what,
government
whoever
has ever
did
been...
this is wanting to do,
no government has ever been overthrown to the benefit of the people.
Yeah.
It's never happened.
When you say, I think of how destructive it's been, what do you mean?
Well, since 9/11, look at how destructive our country is been. I mean, it's really come apart from within.
Although it kind of consolidated the power of the government and the authorities, hasn't it? We've given them carte blanche to pass laws, restrictive laws, draconian laws.
And that's another reason why I have a problem with people who say, oh, the government did it. Of course the government did it. Get mad at the government, blame the government, and meanwhile they're doing nothing but just getting riled up to get people riled up to, destroy their government. Rather than solving what the problem is. You remember? Determine what happened. You got to define the problem before you can solve it.
Absolutely. We agree. And Dr. Wood, we're going to go to a break and go to the last part of our show here, and we're going to let you go, and we're going to say thank you very much for being on our show, and thank you very much for writing this book, which is extremely your book, Where Did the Towers Go?, which is extremely informative, and as far as we're concerned, is probably the best book in terms of, as you say, what happened, explaining what happened on 9/11. Yeah, so thank you, and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
I would like to, add why I've been, kind of harsh about this and, very hard-nosed, is that how the book gets covered up is misinterpretations. People jump into, she speculates this is how it was done, and this is how it was done, and they totally miss the point of this rigorous avenue of beginning with determining what happens, and that is the key to everything. Think about what is going on. If you're misled into concluding how something was done before you know what was done, you're messing up. So it's so important. But once you know what happened, then you know everything else.
Absolutely. You can move from there. Go somewhere.
Yep.
Okay.
Great. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wood.
Take care.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed that segment of the show. We're going to, with our remaining time, which is kind of open to
time-space continuum.
Time-space continuum, because we have a little bit of time to play with here. We're going to go to a short break, and then we'll be back with a little bit more discussion on other aspects of 9/11. So we hope you can join us, and we're going to give you a little song here that you haven't heard before, and we hope you all enjoy it.
When I was a lass, I was proud of me class, like my father and mother before me. They taught me to fight for my civil rights, but it's always the same old story. The rich reign supreme while the poor can but dream, and the labor all liberal or Tory. And I say, bugger the bankers and politicians, bugger the bureaucrats too, bugger the buggers who make up the rules, and if you're one of them, bugger you, and if you're one of them, bugger you.
The system is bent and the money's all spent. We're murdered from every direction. The workers get taxed while the wealthy relax.
With nary a moment's reflection, when it's wrong, there's much.
Well, Lisa Giuliani has been talking about 9/11, trying to get people to wake the hell up for as long as I can remember. She used to have her own radio show called Wing TV, and she has written numerous articles. She's been really pushing the envelope on a lot of aspects of 9/11 and what went down that, frankly, few, if any, other people are talking about. So we really value her input, and that's why we want to talk.
Yeah, and she's been writing some great articles for Sott.net.
Of course, yeah.
Some of which
totally awesome.
Some of which are kind of polemic, in the sense that we get some idiots on there who scream and shout, and we generally defend Lisa to the last. But yeah, you're basically, Lisa, a former internet-based political talk show host, political writer, researcher, activist, conscientious objector, and a known protester. And you're also a self-described thought provocateur. Have you been provoking many thoughts in people? You mentioned to me the other day that you tend to make some people's blood pressure
spike. Yes.
Spike a little bit.
Hello. First of all, hello to everyone, and
Okay.
I thank you for having me on. I'm not a scientist.
No, neither are we.
But I've tried to hone my common sense over the years, and I think that is just as valuable as scientific training.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. For sure.
This part of the show is just going to basically be about the broader aspect of 9/11, but also there's something that I want to talk about in terms of Dr. Judy Wood's kind of angle on the situation, in the sense that saying that it was an inside job, for example, we were pulled up on the inside job, even the fact that we used it in the title of the show, inside job was a no-no. And she has, I mean, and they're probably going to complain about this, but we have a little chat on the radio show, a live chat type of thing, and she had various followers there who were quite vociferous in their typing. About
you got to understand, because she has been fairly attacked as
well.
Yes,
I understand that,
exactly.
but they were saying
she needs the role with her crew. I mean,
absolutely, but she was saying that you're not allowed. And they were saying, this whole idea of saying that it was an inside job, that the government did it, is part of a cover up. Essentially, it's part of covering up. And I'm not sure. It depends. The point about for me, the point about it is that you have to know your audience, or you have to understand who it is you're trying to convince and what it is you're trying to convince them of. For a long time, based on my experience with people and trying to get people to understand certain things, the public at large, type of thing, I've had to tone down my expectations of what I could actually convey to people, And if I wanted to talk to them at all, unless I was just going to preach to the choir, if I wanted to talk to the people sitting on the fence, or the people who might have a semi-half-open, 20% open mind type of thing, or might even listen a little bit, that I needed to really, it's not about soft selling the truth to them, it's about just understanding where they're at and how far they're able to go. So for me, the idea of just, if the only thing I can do is convince those people that their government is out to get them, then fair enough, I'll do that. I'll take that over nothing. I'll take that over the government getting its little hands on our minds.
Dr. Judy Wood is a scientist in the great, tradition of Galileo and Velikovsky, of people who spoke the truth to people who were not only not interested in the truth, but were willing to, to really, harm someone, or trash them, thrash them. I mean, and it's a long tradition of scientists who tell the truth and get trashed. And I think, in a certain sense, she's a little bit naive with that, because I mean, I could put myself in a normal person's shoes, and what she says is still pretty, conspiratorial in a certain sense. I mean, even though she keeps saying, "I'm not saying this," but by implication she says it. I mean, you can't help but avoid the implication. A normal person infers, if you're saying that it was a directed energy weapon, somebody had to fire it. And she says things like that, and she's, "Wait, I'm not going to comment on that." But the act of saying not going to comment makes people think, "Oh, she thinks it's even worse than I thought," and that's the truth.
What do you think, Lisa?
First of all, I tried very hard to follow the flow of conversation during the first hour, and it was rather difficult. And so right off the bat, I would like to offer the opportunity to Arkadiusz Jadczyk, if he wants to complete the thoughts he was trying to make, the point he was trying to make, the opportunity to do so, because he is another great mind, and he is scientifically trained, and I do have respect and value his opinion. So I would like to offer however much time, if he has anything else he wants to say.
Well, he actually had enough. He left the room.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
But
all right,
I think
so get back to your thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, go ahead.
I found that I wrote that down. I was trying to take notes, and one of the first things she mentioned was that to call it an inside job, 9/11 an inside job, would be counterproductive. I have to tell you, with the many years, I started looking into 9/11 2 months after it happened. For almost 2 months before that, I believed the official version. To call it counterproductive, I've heard this out of the mouth of every disinformation artist and internet troll since I started looking into it. I find this suspicious because I don't see how you could look at an event and not have any curiosity about who did it. Okay? Wow. And I've watched these similar. These discussions have evolved. These scientific discussions, I appreciate them. I value them. I may not understand them at the level of a scientist. Okay? But I've watched them. They have one common thing about them over the years. They are circular. They go around and around. Mm-hmm. They don't really lead anywhere. And ultimately, I always find that I'm asking, what does this accomplish in the bigger picture? we were made aware of these various weapons. We're made aware of the energy involved and all the scientific equations necessary to compute all this stuff, and we have all kinds of competing theories as well as competing egos involved. And she talks about admissibility in court. She had a court case. I'd like to know, because many people have tried to bring the issue of 9/11 to court. We put out a book that presented virtually. We took a book and made a direct examination of all the evidence that we had compiled from numerous sources. And we were told by an attorney in New York who did a radio show, Lionel, that this is the best direct examination of witnesses. We made every chapter of the book as if it were a witness, right? And this would have been a great thing to take into a court, if such a court existed. But as far as I can see, there is no compelling authority, and there is no court in the United States of America that is going to take on a case like this. And who, if in the event anybody got, the perps down to a T, name and everything, who's going to bring them to justice?
Yeah.
Who is?
People have to dispense with that idea of there being justice.
Yes, I don't think there's going to be justice. All we can do, is keep digging into information, new information. It's very hard for new information to come out. We had some various hopes among all kinds of individuals over the years. I did. For example, the former Bush administration official, Morgan Reynolds, a group of credentialed people got together a few years in, not as early as the first tier of 9/11 researchers. Like Sott was one of the first tier researchers, and I was in there, looking at it pretty early on too. And as were others. But these credentialed people came on a few years after the fact, and they essentially kind of, I don't know, it sure seemed like that to the rest of us, like they just wanted to disregard what research had been done before, and nobody's opinion seemed to count except the people with alphabet soup behind their name.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were disregarding other people's research and only wanted people to look and consider as valuable their own research. And so when she says something, now I want to make sure I got this right, because she was basically saying that the World Trade Center collapses, there's no evidence of it being a thermal situation.
Yeah.
There was no thermal effect. Like there were no hot spots.
There wasn't enough heat to completely.
But then I want to ask you this:
destroy it.
NASA used an airborne visible infrared image spectrometer and recorded temperatures over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit on the surface with one spot. Huh?
Or so they say.
Well, listen, with one spot at the South Tower that recorded 1,377 degrees.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, but then there is there's several pictures she has where there's these hot spots being shown, and then there's like a plastic cooler next to them, and they're saying that the steel toe boots are melting, but no one's saying anybody's toes got burned off. So I mean, I do see that she's coming at, she's saying like, hold on a second, it doesn't add up. So I do agree with that.
Well, maybe
what about the witnesses?
Maybe that's a good point, Lisa, because ARC has just re-entered the building,
okay.
and you wanted to give ARC.
Sure.
Or ask ARC if he would expand or give him an opportunity to expand on the little comments that you made about energy weapons and information, possibly. Okay. So we'll maybe let Archie, what do you think?
I don't know.
You don't know? Do you have anything more to say on?
What I want to say is that I see no evidence that this was electromagnetic energy. Yes. I see no evidence that it was some kind of purely thermal energy. What I see is that it was something that we do not know much about, and we do not have full control over it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I see.
Absolutely, yeah. That something went on that. Nobody.
I would stress the fact that evidently it's not fully controlled.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
maybe, Ark, maybe you could explain a bit about information, how information is can structure matter, can explain what happened, because for most listeners it may be not very clear. Information may be an essential factor in matter, in phenomenon we see every day, and in particular that we observed during 9/11.
Well, information is a little bit abstract concept for most people, but if I would say it can affect very space-time structure at the micro level, or even below, that may be better.
Including molecular bonding.
Oh, of course, in particular, but I don't think that's it, because from the fact that we had unexpected weather phenomena, it follows that it's not localized effect, and it distributes as a kind of let me use it the way the word non-linear way, chaotic. And when you think about chaos is entropy. Chaos is destroying information.
Okay, so that's from a theoretical physics point of view.
Yeah, quite abstract and quite general. I don't want to speculate.
You don't want to speculate on any hard science basis for that, no.
Right, there are too many speculations already.
Too many speculations already.
Well, on the one hand, that's what Dr. Wood was stressing, let's not speculate.
But that's problematic.
First we need all the evidence. But does Dr. Wood know that she has all the evidence?
Thank you.
Well, from which to start making
here's the
a directed weapons idea theory?
There's a couple of problems with that. First of all, like in the situation with Sandy Hook, right? You're dealing with a situation where you, as a regular person, don't have access to the evidence.
You're not privy to all the
You're
data.
not privy to the evidence in every situation. Now, with 9/11, there is a lot of evidence that's very big, and there were samples collected and things like this. But me not having a scientific background, when Judy Wood says this happened and this happened, molecular bonds, I don't know anything about it. I can trust her as an authority, but then that's just me doing the same problem over and over again.
Well, I would say that speculating about nano weapons is even worse.
Yeah, but what I wanted to say is that, in a certain sense, like if you see a dead body that has holes in it, and then you see a person with bloody hands, but you don't see a murder weapon, you're not necessarily making a big error if you say, did you kill that person? And arguing over the size of the knife and the type of knife, or was it an ice pick, that is relevant information in a court of law, sure, but we're never going to get in a court of law. But if you see that person, I'm going to be like, I'm not leaving you alone with my wife, because guess what? I think you just stabbed that person to death. And
there's room for intuition. I mean, there's more to human experience and human life than just pure hard science, and people have to live their lives without being scientists themselves and being able to discern every single thing. And on the Sandy Hook thing, there's more to it, like Dr. Wood said that basically Sandy Hook, you don't have any evidence. So basically don't go there. But hang on a minute. No. I personally, in terms of Sandy Hook, when I looked at it, I was able to put it into a historical context and look at
evidence,
it and
narrative evidence.
Exactly, and I could draw what I think is a reasonable conclusion based on that alone, without any access to the actual forensic evidence. I could come up with a reasonable, plausible scenario as to what actually happened at Sandy Hook.
Forensic evidence is not the only type of evidence in existence.
No, it's very important.
No, and look at how many people have been. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
Look at how many people have been convicted in courts of so-called law based on circumstantial evidence alone.
Absolutely.
Over the years.
We have a call
something
here.
else she said.
Yeah, go ahead.
She said, know what you know. Well, I would counter that with this. We know the government has never proven any of its allegations regarding 9/11. We know that.
Yeah, the burden of proof is on the accusers.
And one more thing that she said, she said, like, we didn't start from step one. We started at, to paraphrase her, at step two or step three. Well, I would say I disagree with that, because what we started with was the government's official version of events.
Which
and
is
we
how
always
we
stressed that.
Yeah, they made a statement, and we said, well, is that true? the physical evidence from the towers obviously says it's not, but there's other evidence. There's historical evidence. There's psychological evidence. There's the narrative evidence of what have they said before, what has been happened, what has been revealed.
Absolutely, and all of that has to be put together
Yeah.
for a complete picture. We've got a call here, Lisa. I'm just going to take it and hope that it's not some kind of
Yeah, me too.
Don't worry. Hi, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Hello, caller.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi,
Hello.
And where are you calling from?
My name is Ashley. I'm calling from Rhode Island.
Hi, welcome to the show.
Hi, Ashley.
Thank you so much for taking my call. I have a question for, is it Miss Giuliani? Is that her last name?
You can call me Lisa.
Okay, Lisa. My question is this. Okay, I've read Dr. Judy Wood's book twice now, and I'm still going through it. And there's a mountain of evidence, empirical evidence in there. And just to let you know a little bit of who I am, I've been involved with the 9/11 Truth Movement since around 2006 with Luke Radowski, Dylan Avery, Corey Rowe, and the likes of those people. I was also at Richard. Yes, I was also at Richard Gage's first ever meeting of the brainstorm to start AE for 9/11 Truth. Okay, so that's just a little bit about who I am and what I know. And I've, been following everything since the second it happened on 9/11. I knew it wasn't what they were saying. And I just want to say that the evidence that Dr. Judy Wood presents in her book was even covered up for me. I was dissuaded from looking at that evidence. And people just need to look at the evidence for themselves and not speculate on anything. The evidence is there if you just look with your eyes and not listen to what anybody says. And the fact that who did it, why it was done, is not as important as what had happened on 9/11.
It's not?
No, because what happened is the most important thing, because that
And what do you do with it? What do you do with that information about what happened once you establish what happened, which to my mindset, it has not been clearly established what happened. There's facts and there's evidence. And I'm not so sure that everything that's been presented by many 9/11 researchers is actually evidence, or facts that actually represent the objective reality.
Well, let's be fair to Dr. Wood's book. It is an extremely detailed, extremely well put together collection of some very, very damning evidence that is difficult to dispute the fact that it exists and it happened, right? So, in all fairness to her book, it's kind of like the evidence Bible in a certain sense of what happened to the towers. It might not be the whole picture. No one can ever claim they have all of the information.
Right,
but
she sounded like she was. Like she sounded like she made a determination.
Well, that's okay because everyone does that.
Have you read the book, Lisa?
No, I didn't read the book. I followed her on the internet.
Well, then how can you say
I'm not dissing her. I'm just saying I'm bringing up points I disagree with that she made, if you listen to me.
Well, you need to read you first need to read the book before you can...
Well, let me tell you what my deal is, okay? My deal is this.
Anybody can have an opinion.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
Thank you. After so many years of being involved in these discussions about the mechanics of the collapses of the towers and what happened and the minutia, it ended up being minutia. People going around and around about the same points over and over, and everybody has a competing idea and theory and opinion and fact. After a while, you start, it's like what Dr. Wood said. If you can't solve it, move on. That's what she just said. Okay? So I agree with that. I do agree with what she said there, because I think after, this happened in 2001. It is 2013 now. How long are we going to go round and round chasing our tails? I'm not saying don't examine her evidence or her facts or her ideas or theories or her
they're not
book.
Ideas or theories. These are actual facts that happened. There's
no
theory involved.
She's not open to other people's ideas and research either. And I know this from experience because I've been privy to email exchanges, long, ongoing email exchanges over the years between her and the 9/11 scholars for 9/11 Truth and various other researchers. I was made, I was made privy. If you'd let me finish, thank you.
I'm sorry.
You know, I was made privy to these. I didn't want to be privy to these because they turned out to be very combative, hostile, extremely nasty, rude, filthy exchanges between the battle of egos. Because I've learned over the years, most of the people in it that said they were in it to find the truth were really in it to gain notoriety for themselves as solving 9/11. They wanted to sell merchandise. They wanted to sell books and products and things like that. And it started to be more and more evidence was excluded. I am not a proponent of excluding evidence, so by all means, I would like to read that book. I have a whole stack of books I'd like to read, you know?
Okay.
But I don't think...
If he wants to send you the book, would you read it?
She doesn't have to send it to me. I'll buy it.
Yeah,
okay, well,
absolutely.
I have a question for Ashley.
Okay, go ahead.
I have a question for Ashley. This is my question.
Okay, sure.
I have looked at what I can understand of Dr. Wood's material, okay?
Okay.
And I am converted. I believe I don't see when she's talking about the evidence, I don't see a secondary agenda. I see her reporting the facts as she sees them and saying, "Hey, this is curious," and she strings them together. It's very good. I am converted. You don't need to convert me. I believe I've drunk the Kool-Aid. I've been saved by Jesus. What am I going to do next? Right? Because you're not going to get an argument with me about Dr. Wood's work because it's impeccable. I mean, you can't really argue with it. You can niggle out 1 or 2 points maybe. I mean, anybody can, but the evidence that she presents is extremely compelling. And the active word there being compelling, what am I compelled to do once do I just accept that Jesus Christ died on the cross for my sins and then I go about my day? What am I supposed to do next?
Well, this is what I've been compelled to do ever since I've read her book and gone through the evidence. Because it doesn't matter who wrote the book. All that matters is the evidence that is in the book.
Right. Absolutely. Preaching to the choir.
Yes, but I'm just saying with as far as Lisa, she needs to read the book before she comes on and says it's a theory. Because if you don't read something, how do you know?
Well, I don't think that it's...
Yeah. She needs to church it up. She needs to come to Christ. Okay, but what are we going to do next?
And I'm just saying, what I've been doing now is trying to show the empirical evidence that has been covered up for years by the so-called 9/11 Truth Movement and 9/11 Scholars for 9/11 Truth.
Right.
Okay, to bring that
we need
forward,
to convert the sinners and the infidels. I understand.
Well, no,
I don't want anybody to misconstrue what I'm saying here, Ashley. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want you to misconstrue what I'm saying. I'm saying examine whatever evidence or information is out there. You know, and the things she says are compelling. We always said, the underground fires that burned for nearly 100 days after 9/11 that they couldn't put out, it was indicative of a higher energy source being used because it was a nearly oxygen-starved environment under the ground.
How do we know they were fired?
Keep discounting.
How do we know it was fire? Just because it looks like fire doesn't mean it is fire.
Well, there was definitely heat, okay?
I mean,
well, there was no heat. It was low energy reaction.
Look, let me just butt in here and say something.
I thought this was going to be my time to, Judy Wood went, for a long time.
It is, Lisa. Hang on.
She's not here to defend herself.
Ashley, nobody's attacking Judy. Nobody's attacking Judy Wood here. And look, hang on a minute. We are all in agreement that 9/11 is not what we are told it was, and there is compelling evidence that can convince a lot of people, if they would look at it, that 9/11 was not what we were told it is. And that's all anybody really needs to do, and then everybody together, decide what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about the fact that 9/11 was not done by Al-Qaeda, and they launched wars on that basis, and there's thousands of U.S. soldiers who have been killed on the basis of 9/11. This is a high crime by whoever did it. The government obviously plays a part in it because the government is pursuing that agenda. So let's do something about it.
How could it not be involved? Seriously,
of course.
How could the government not be?
She's not saying that they're not involved. She's just saying that she doesn't know.
I know, that's fine, and she doesn't know, so we're going to take it from here. So, Ashley, thank you for your call.
Okay, just read the book, please, Lisa.
I absolutely will. Thank you, I will.
Okay, we cut her off. Listen, that's enough. I mean, callers can't go on and on and on about something that's very simple. Lisa, Take it away.
Well, I just have a problem with people who want to look at the crime but not look at who did the crime, and it's like, I liken it to a rape. Say 10 guys rape a woman and you only go after 3 of them, or you don't go after any of them. How do you just stop there? How do you just stop at looking at the crime and not trying to track back like who was involved? And look at what has unfolded since then. My God. Illegal invasions and occupations of other countries, people who never raised a hand to us are being slaughtered en masse. And if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it Osama bin Laden that was put up as the icon of terror? Look at what that has done. They've never proven that. I believe in the beginning, and you'll, I'm sure, correct me if I'm wrong, he even denied involvement in 9/11. In the event of 9/11.
Of course he did, yeah.
He did, yeah. Okay, but look at what has happened to the public mindset when they look at people who are of Muslim faith, Arabs, everybody is pointing the finger at them, and yet the real perps are going scot-free. And you can't look at this crime without looking further than just the crime scene.
100%.
Maybe there's one point. It's not very clear in my mind yet, but when I look at the story again and again, I have the feeling that there are several layers in the onion as far as the perpetrators are concerned. As if some actors involved knew part of the picture but were set up. You see, for example, the Pentagon strike. Targeting specifically the Naval Intelligence Office. You see the Pentagon being attacked, and therefore somehow creating a kind of alibi for maybe the perpetrators or a party that was involved, a part of the government. At the same time, you see those 5 Jewish guys next to this van dancing while they see the World Trade Center collapsing. You're wondering, did they have all the picture, or were they also partly set up? Because if the public stopped believing it was the government, they would turn against Mossad and Israel. At the same time, when you see the amplitude of the event, you're wondering, but those guys, those Jewish guys, were they really perpetrators? Did they press the button? It seems this complicated technology was involved, so it doesn't seem to me it was 5 guys from a van nearby who pressed the button and disintegrated the tower. So I'm not sure it's black and white. I'm not sure there is a...
Right.
I think there's several levels of patsies.
Yes, I agree with you. And I'm not discounting any use of higher, technology, weaponry. I'm not saying that because I don't know. And you know what I think? I think nobody really knows the truth. I think we can come close to the truth. And I think as time goes on, maybe, perhaps, I hope for the sake of all those who lost their lives and continue to lose their lives and have to live this nightmare, that we will come closer to the truth. But frankly, I don't think anybody has it 100% as fact. Right.
No.
And anybody who says they do, I'm sorry. There's so much yet we still don't know.
Yeah, I appreciate the research that Judy Wood has pulled together, and here I would say that it's evidence that is there that isn't hers. It's evidence that she's collected, and she's done a good job, and she deserves appreciation for putting the evidence together, but it's just evidence that's there. And it fits for me when I don't even have to read the book, although I have, when I see the way the towers collapsed. Right. They collapsed into dust.
Yeah, I
mean there's something very strange happened on 9/11, and as Ark has just said, Ark as a scientist isn't even willing to go anywhere, and he knows far more than anybody about the possibilities of what could have potentially caused this, but he's not willing to speculate because it is in the realm of kind of crazy. It's so far out of normal mainstream science that if you're going to talk about it, you may as well drop the hard science rigidity and just go with the flow. And that's what, in a way, that's what I appreciate the way Judy deals with the situation and stuff and puts the evidence forward. But if she's going to talk about it, she should allow herself. But maybe she can't because of her reputation.
She should give up. No, I think the reason she is like that is because she's afraid it will all descend into chaos.
Which it probably will.
Wait, there'll be infighting. there'll be arguments, there'll be back and
There
forth.
already is.
Wait,
Mhm.
there'll be polemic,
Guaranteed.
which is exactly what has happened for the last 12 years.
And Lisa, you know that better than it.
Yes, I do. Well, maybe not better than anybody, but I do know.
This being said, this in the beginning of the show, it was obvious that we were. I read this book twice, cover to cover, and I find the evidence that are available. It's probably not all the evidence. Nobody has all the evidence, but there's a lot of evidence. They're very compelling. It's very consistent. It's scientifically sound from my point of view, and it has a consequence on the political level, because I'm not willing to do any conclusion about the kind of weapon that we used. The only conclusion I can draw is that it was exotic. It was something unknown. So it tells us on the political level that perpetrators were not basic terrorists. It was not bin Laden. It was not. It's a high-level thing.
Well, and that's a good point, because you can take the various levels of evidence. There's pretty vanilla evidence, that you can present to people, and it says the official story is bullshit. You can go as far as reading Dr. Judy Wood's book cover to cover and find this evidence of kind of high strangeness and very strange things going on, but it still points back to the fact that the official story is bullshit, and the government, as a proponent of the official story, is lying to us. And that, I think, is a very, very important point for the lay person who is not able to go into the high strangeness and all that kind of stuff. They just need to understand your government's not working in your best interest.
Right. And may I say something?
Yeah.
I have not tried to convince people over the years. What I've tried to do is provoke people to think about what they were told repeatedly, and what's been going on, what's happened since, and how these things don't add up. A lot of things don't add up, and how the government has not proven anything that it said.
Well,
I'm not trying to say you have to believe me. I've asked people to look for themselves and do research and do homework about it and expose themselves to more information sources than just their televisions.
I would point something out, on this topic. How long has it been since Kennedy was assassinated?
Oh, a good 50-some years.
And how many times have you heard the magic bullet argument and how unscientific it is?
Yeah.
They're still arguing over that piece of shit.
Right.
It's like, yeah,
take a lesson. Yeah.
It's like you can't niggle on the evidence. The evidence is there. Cool, got it. All right, move on, because we need to do something about it. And what I wanted to say earlier, and I missed the chance, is a great quote from Martin Luther King that justice delayed is justice denied. And that's the government's modus operandi. They just prevent you from finding anything out. They have this rule for 75 years later you can find out what happened, but by then nobody gives a shit and nobody can do anything about it, right? Yeah. And that's how the government works. They delay, and that's how they deny.
Yeah.
Well, I think that you should...
Art was going to say something.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, Lisa, concerning the book by Judy. I like the book, what is inside. I don't like the title. The title is The Evidence of Directed Free Energy Technology. I think it's not scientific correct. It's not exact. It's a guess, and the guess should not be in the title. But probably the title of the book was not invented by Judy.
Probably by a publisher.
I am not sure, but it's, for me as a scientist, it's not a scientific title.
Okay.
Yeah, for me too. It was a big turnoff to see the free energy term there.
Yeah.
And I still don't agree with the directed energy weapon situation.
It was something weird, and let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Because nobody can speculate any further.
I agree with you. It was weird.
Lisa, do you want to take a call?
Okay.
We'll be quicker on the uptake with this one.
Wow, we know what's going on.
Hi, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Hello, caller.
Is this my line?
This is your line, yeah.
Okay. My name is Ryan. I'm from San Jose.
Hi.
Hey, Ryan.
How you doing? Do you have a question for Lisa?
Oh, well, kind of. Yeah, I just wanted to say that totally agree that, government really doesn't have our best interests in mind. You guys are definitely right on track there. Really I wanted to start by saying thank you for having Dr. Wood on your show. I mean, that was a crucial interview. Thanks for doing that.
Okay.
Really the truth is people have used 9/11 to build their careers and try to sell themselves and, sell their credibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it's become a fight of really who's credible, who can we look to, who's credible, and the fight for truth.
And that's a trap, man. That's a trap. That's a trap. The whole who's credible, because that's when you start falling victim to ad hominem attacks. Is when you start looking.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying how do you establish the credibility of people? I mean, you get what I'm saying?
You can't. When a person says it's true or it's not, you got to try to evaluate it on your own. You can't look to a lab coat and say, okay, that person has X number of degrees, therefore they're X amount more credible than somebody else. I mean, that's a trap because, you have to look at the evidence yourself. I mean, and if it's not convincing to you, then you're going to have to say, well, wait a minute, I don't understand it. It's not convincing to me. I need to find out more. You can't say like, well, such a person has a degree, or because I mean the government carts out people with degrees all the time. Like that Stephen Jones guy who slammed Fleischman and what's his name. Those guys had degrees on that panel.
Intellectual dishonesty is generally spelled out when people get into credentialism, I would say.
Right.
When people get into my doctor is better than your doctor.
Right.
It's really about who has the cure, right?
Well, yeah, I mean,
that's
also
what it comes down to.
I mean, if somebody says something intelligent, I mean, it doesn't matter if the guy's a drunk, wino, sex addict, reformed Christian or something like that. I don't care if what he has to say on 9/11 is going to be relevant if it's logical. If I sit there and say, okay, what you said is true, and true is true, it doesn't matter who says it, and that's the founding idea of science, is that ad hominem attacks are irrelevant, and the minute somebody makes an ad hominem attack, then I will tend to discredit them based on the fact that they're attacking somebody's reputation instead of attacking.
I totally agree, and that's why I support Dr. Judy Wood, because I think that the truth is that you need look no further to establish credibility of the analysis of evidence in the book Where Did the Towers Go? In the author's preface, if you read her book, Judy Wood gives a qualification for her forensic evidence, and she says the order of crime is to determine what happened, then how it happened, then who did it, and only then can we address why they did it.
She forgot one point, which is one of the most important, is what do you do with what happened?
With your conclusion.
That's what happens in a court. There's a jury, and then there's a thing called a judgment, and that judgment meets out some form of something called justice, and that goes back to the Martin Luther King delayed justice is denied justice. That there is an ultimate goal to the evaluation of the evidence, and that's important.
Well, there's always been the possibility of wrongful judgment on the case, in any case. And we've seen this time and time again with our government. I mean, I know personal victims in my life.
Listen. We love Dr. Wood. I want to say this because I kind of keep getting the feeling, when Dr. Wood was on, she seemed like that she was expecting that we had some sort of negative opinion, or that we were going to attack her or make kind of like negative assumptions about her, which was not the case. I'm a big fan.
That wasn't the impression I got at all.
Right? So it's cool. We love her work. We love the book. We recommend the book. We're in her camp here on this, and we understand she's got a role with her clique, and we think it's awesome that people are calling in to show their support. But now we're kind of moving on to new stuff. So we'd like to go forward with this and not keep coming back to Dr. Wood's stuff, even though it's important.
All right,
well,
Ryan, thanks.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think you might have got the wrong impression of Dr. Wood, because I've been following her for a few years, and I feel that I've watched her interviews, and I've seen the more negative discussion and the more positive discussion, and I've just seen that Dr. Wood, she's on the defensive, and needfully so. And the point is,
we are no strangers.
the
You're no
specific
strangers to
discourse,
defamation.
right? If you look at
So
the
we
specific
totally
discourse
understand.
of your show,
Right.
she is simply trying to bring the lenses back towards the what. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
all she's trying to do, and she really
And we
doesn't see you as
appreciate that.
attacking her, I don't think.
No, absolutely, and we appreciate that, and that's one part of the whole 9/11 discussion, and we're moving on to another part of it, okay? So thanks for your call, Ryan.
Thanks a lot. Have a
No
good
problem,
day.
bro. Have a good day, dude.
All right, listen, there's another call. It's been sitting here for 20 minutes. I'm going to see if
Okay,
we
go
can
ahead.
I'm going to see if we can get somebody to ask something a bit more relevant. Hi, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, am I on? Is this me?
You are on. Sorry for
the title in the title of your show, it says the 9/11 Psy-Ops.
Yeah.
And to say, yeah, and this is where you see a bunch of people who are really, really upset because they know when a Psy-Op is being employed because we went under one for 12 years.
Yeah.
So to say, what does one do with the evidence? Dr. Judy forgot about that. What does one do? Well, that's called a Psy-Op because that tells everybody, oh, well, we're gonna argue about it forever. We'll never be able to solve anything.
Right.
We might as well just go ahead and give up. And to tell everyone that they should be fatigued and walk away, it's called a Psy-Op. So whether you know it or not, by Lisa saying, how can you look at a crime scene, at a crime and not want to look at who did it? Well, how can Lisa walk into a crime scene, ignore all of the evidence,
That's
and then
not
go on to
accurate.
I mean,
I
you
haven't
can't
ignored
skip
all
over
the evidence.
Hold on one
Absolutely
second.
not.
Let me finish.
We did a whole documentary on it. We wrote books about it.
Hang on, dude. She didn't.
But
you just made a statement. She didn't ignore all the evidence. You made a statement. She did not ignore all the evidence.
Hold on a
That's a
second.
statement.
Well, first of all, she didn't read the book. That would be ignoring the
Back up, dude. Back up, dude.
Dude.
He hasn't read the
Let me
Bible.
finish
It's okay.
my thought.
Back up, dude. Just chill out.
Opposing
and let her
views are
answer.
not allowed.
You made a
Finish
statement. Let her answer, bro. But seriously, man.
Let me
Come on. I
finish my
want you on the
thought.
show.
Let me finish my thought because I'm not done, and then you can add to it. But how could Lisa say, how can you look at a crime and not look at who did it? Well, how could she form her opinion based on emails from James Fetzer? And
It wasn't emails alone. It was.
True.
I was in the 9/11 research scene myself since late 2001, and maybe you're not familiar with me, or any of the things that I've done over the course of the years, and I don't really tout it too much on the internet because I'm not trying to hawk any products. Okay, but. My main interest in this whole thing was to
we're
seek
trying
out.
to stop the psyop.
Sir?
We're not trying to talk.
I never ignored the crime scene or the evidence. Okay, there is an enormous amount of information out there to go
Lisa,
through.
I just cut that guy off because
Okay.
he's making stupid comments.
No, I expected this.
I mean, do you know what I'm going to say right now? Judy Wood's book is good. To see all the people who follow her, Judy, ditch him. Because they have a problem. They have a serious problem.
You know what this is reminding me of? The Alex Jones groupies.
I know, it's terrible. You know, Judy, take a look at your followers because, okay, there's one more call on hold, and that's the last one we're going to take. So, and this person better not. Hi, caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello, this is Lindsay from Atlanta.
Hi, Lindsay.
Hi.
Hey, Lisa, you remember me from years ago.
Lindsay Tackett?
Yes. How are
That's you. Yes, I remember you.
Yeah. It's been a long time, and I just woke up, but I heard that you were doing a show, and I've listened for about maybe 25 minutes, and not one word about Israel's orchestration of 9/11.
Hey, dude, we're getting into it. Give us a chance. We've taken all these calls.
Well, we're trying to get past all of the Judy Wood fan club.
Right.
We don't even have time.
I mean, seriously, it's like the Christians.
Do you want us to get into Israel?
Lindsay? And I just wanted to give the name of an essay and also of her ex-husband, Victor Thorne's book entitled, and frankly is the best book on 9/11, bar none.
I wouldn't bar none. 9/11 Ultimate Truth is an excellent book. I suggest you read it. Laura Knight Yetchik and Joe Quinn.
No, I haven't read it. But yeah, it's entitled 9/11 Evil, Israel's Central Role in 9/11. And also there was an essay by the real ZCF, the real Zion Crime Factory, entitled Israel Did 9/11, All the Proof in the World.
Yep.
And if you're not aware, Dr. Alan Zabrowski, he
Yes,
was
I'm aware.
the form. Right. Well, I'm not sure if the Sott folks are
Yes,
aware.
they published it on their website.
Oh,
yes,
really?
they're aware.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
Let's just pretend that we've been doing this for a while.
Just for the record, Sott was...
Thank you, Lindsay. I appreciate you calling.
No, it's my pleasure, and I just wanted, to help steer the conversation to something more relevant for people to be more tangible.
We've got a half an hour left, and we're going to do that. Thanks for your call, Lindsay.
Okay. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Just so all of Judy Wood's fans are aware, Sott.net has been on this since it happened and has been attacked
since the day it happened.
endlessly, flamed to the point that while quite a lot of people out there seem to know all about Judy Wood, although their argument is, well, nobody's ever heard of her, hardly anyone really knows about Sott.net.
That's right, because you've quietly been doing the research and writing about this for many, many years without the fanfare.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we don't want the fanfare.
The Pentagon strike video is a good example.
Yeah.
500 million viewers.
1 billion.
1 billion.
No way.
That's quite a lot, and no mention whatsoever in mainstream media. And actually, they were mentioning.
We went to the Cannes Film Festival for that.
Yeah, and they were mentioning indirectly the content of the video, but never was mentioned the website, the source. The idea was to discredit the idea, but at the same time, do not give any publicity to the source because they knew it was dangerous and counterproductive from their point of view.
Yeah, Lisa.
I would like to recommend to anyone listening who hasn't read the book you and Laura Knight-Yadchik wrote, 9/11: The Ultimate Truth, to please check that book out because I think that's a defining book for 9/11. Yeah. And I urge everybody to get a copy of it. And it's a shame that more people haven't, heard about it. You guys operate a lot differently than pretty much everybody else in this so-called truth movement and research community and conspiracy circle. A lot of people don't realize that the people at Sott are very meticulous, very thorough, and they look under every rock they can find. So it's not like they just happened on the scene, last week.
Yeah, but people treat us like that perpetually.
I know.
They think whether we were born yesterday.
I know.
I know. I mean, Judy's going to come up here and roll like 10 deep and think that we don't see exactly what's going on. And we appreciate it. We understand it because we've been under attack plenty too. And, she's gun shy and shell-shocked, so we appreciate that shit.
And on the Israel thing that Ashley mentioned, Israel did it. I think that, again, or saying any one person or any one group of people did it is kind of too simplistic, because obviously we're dealing with something here that was kind of the crime of the century in a big, big way.
I think it's beyond nations.
It's got to be, when we talk about this stuff, we have to get into kind of, real conspiracy terms and stuff, like the shadow government and stuff. But that's
you know what I'm going to say?
No,
I'm going to say it like this so that I can get attacked again. Ready?
Go ahead.
I think it was a faction within the United States government at the federal level, Zionist, dual American-Israeli citizens in high-level power positions, and also working in conjunction with Israeli government intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I'm not saying it's our whole government and their whole government, although I can't really speak to their government because, well, I look at both of them like crime syndicates,
Mm-hmm,
and that's what I call them. Crime syndicates posing as governments, at least these factions within them that are actually dominating the turn of events, and everything that's happened since 9/11, I don't know how anybody could not stop to wonder, because they always tie everything back to 9/11, using 9/11 as a justification for everything they're doing. Right. Yet, if you allow me to repeat for the third time, because I'm saying this and I don't want it to be taken lightly, we know the government's never proven any of its allegations about 9/11 yet. Everything that's happened since has been justified because of 9/11. And if they haven't proven it, then they haven't proven that what they're saying is true. And we know like some of the hijackers, the alleged hijackers, supposedly were alive after 9/11. How could that even be possible if they all died?
Yeah. One more inconsistency. I have a question, Lisa.
Yes.
If you allow me. I'm wondering if there's not several conspiracy within conspiracies and several agendas at work. Because now, 12 years later, when you think about it, sure, if you have the question, cui bono, who benefits for the crime, obviously the totalitarian, the Middle East has been a loser, Israel has been a winner, military complex has been a winner. But now, 12 years later, I'm wondering if the main loser is not the American people.
Yeah. Oh, I think so.
Wasn't the American people the real target in the end, and wasn't 9/11 the trigger to institute a totalitarian, dystopian society in the U.S.?
I think you're right about that. I think they went the long road around to get to the end point, and we haven't quite reached the end point yet, but they sure have made progress over the years, in my opinion. You keep a people in a level of fear, and it's amazing what you can accomplish. I mean, look at what just happened in Boston, where they locked down Boston, and people were cheering for that. They were cheering at the end, Yeah, wow, exactly. They pulled that one off. Let's see what they can do with some other cities,
Absolutely, and just people need to make that link back to 9/11 from Boston, because there is a direct link back to 9/11, because Boston was terrorism, and people have been conditioned since 9/11, because of 9/11 and all of the terror plots since then, they have been conditioned to be afraid and to be terrorized by this idea of terrorism and some kind of an external threat. Initially it was an external threat that could attack us, obviously, in the U.S. on 9/11. Afterwards it was, various threats from Arab terrorists, blah, blah. And at this stage, it doesn't matter if it was Chechens or Papua New Guinean pygmies or something. Yeah. For the American people, it's a terror threat. We're under attack. And like you just said, Lisa, the end result is they have got the American people to cheer and clap when they're put under martial law and the houses are raided by the police and the army.
Look at how it's evolved, right? The threat was originally external to the United States, according to the official version of events. Okay, the original conspiracy theory, but now we're the threat.
Absolutely, yeah. People within the U.S., homegrown terrorists, and it's directly linked. They've just moved the goalposts and maneuvered people around. Yeah. And
it's been very subtle and incremental, It's not, I call them spikes, when they highlight certain stories in the news and they run with them, and it's to promote that, ratchet up that fear factor in the population and the paranoia factor. And it's worked. It's worked masterfully.
And following the thread of multiple agendas, non-linear development of those events, and perpetrators screwing other perpetrators, reminds me of those, those Christian Zionists. They're not Jewish. They probably don't have Israel interest at heart, and this fulfillment of prophecy, where somehow you bait Israel in going over the line and digging its own tomb, by doing too much in Middle East, thanks to 9/11, and finally fulfilling the prophecy where Israel is destructed in order to reach the domination of those Zionist Christians. So it's really not straightforward. There's a lot of players, and there's a lot of cheating and setup, and it develops over years and years, almost decades.
Because I don't think that Israel has really benefited. I mean, the current of anti-Semitism, especially among white Christians and just Christians in general, is always below the surface. And after the Holocaust, of course, it was suppressed, but it's still there. There's a lot of anti-Semitism.
Well, Jason, if I could
it's
throw
being
this
developed.
In?
Yeah.
I think Israel's benefited in a few ways, but one of them, right off the top of my head, is that Israel never wanted a balance of power in the Middle East, and it's, you take out Iraq, and they're happy about that because they don't want them around, and they don't, as far as I can see, they don't really want any of their neighbors around. They want to just expand their land grab and kill or cause to flee any any people that stand in their way.
I'm not ignorant of that. I just remember what the Baron von Harkonnen said. People hate a popular person. I mean, Israel's kind of like they're getting their way all the time. And people don't like that.
How do you look at them as a victim when they're killing so many Palestinians?
I'm not looking at them as a victim. I'm saying
not you.
That
I mean
they
in
are
general.
being. I'm saying that they are being allowed. All of the anti-Semitic Christians, all these people who don't really like the Jews, they are standing back and say, "Oh yeah, you can have it, whatever you want," and they just keep asking for more and more. And it's one of those give them enough rope, they'll hang themselves type of situation. Because people, I mean, I have noticed that there's a huge rise in Israel did it. Israel, those Israelis, and it's there's a lot of anger that's going to explode at a certain point against Israel, which is going to lead to this whole Christian Zionist Armageddon on the hills of wherever it is in Israel.
I think it's important to make the distinction between Zionists, and Jewish people in this whole thing, and it's not the Jews overall. But I want to say this. I want to say this, If the Jewish people don't want Zionism speaking for them, they really need to speak up and make that known. Because right now, Zionism seems to be speaking for all the Jewish people.
Just like like Obama speaks for the Americans.
But
exactly.
If you follow the reasoning, it's worse than that. We're not sure about what is going to happen. But in this scenario I presented previously, you have the Zionists, not necessarily Jewish, by the way, who prepare the annihilation of the Semitic people, the Arab Semitic and the Jewish Semitic. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not Zionist as extremist Jewish or nationalist Jewish. It's anti-Semitic Zionist. It seems a paradox, but it might be what will happen in the end. Yeah. Non-Jewish Zionists, which are anti-Semitic, that will prepare the destruction of the Jewish people.
Yeah, for all we know, the Jewish people are also being made a target here too by their own political movement and the Zionist mindset.
Yeah, and it seems to me that when talking again about who did 9/11, you're talking about a certain group of people that are really above and beyond national boundaries and religious or ethnic and ideologies or considerations. Their desire and goal is to control people, regardless of identity. And the way to control people is to make them, divide and conquer, set them against each other, encourage conflicts, wars. These people are sitting somewhere up on high, in their own heads, and they're looking at the world as their little oyster. They think about things in a global sense. They see all 7 billion people on this little blue marble kind of thing, and they go, mine. And they use ideologies, in their manipulations of people, And when you say Zionism and Israelis, I think you're talking about kind of high up in that level. But even they are kind of getting their orders from someone who really has this global perspective, and has a broad understanding, a broad knowledge base. I mean, they're not stupid people. They're evil, but they're smart.
Yeah.
No, they're diabolical, but they're, super intelligent. I think one thing we can say we know for sure, whoever pulled off 9/11 holds no sanctity for the value of a human life.
Absolutely. That's what it comes down to.
On the
I think it's safe to say that, right?
Yep.
Well,
I think one of their main driver is, as Joe said, control, and it's also destruction. And those top perpetrators, for them, all humans are expendable.
Yes.
And potential source of suffering, and actually even CIA agent, ONI agent, FBI officials, Mossad leaders, Israel government, U.S. government, in the end, it's all the same. Everybody expendable, and that's what those middle-range perpetrators forget. They think that they're on top of the range. They're on top of the pyramid. They're not. And I think ultimately they will realize that they were set up too.
Yes, we were all set up.
Sacrifice character to a lot of the terrorist type of things. I mean, you kind of imagine that maybe these people are like some sort of weird Satanistic kind of cult. I mean, I don't know. That's the best word I can come up with. That they organize these terrorist attacks, and to them it's sort of like sacrificing people on the altar, like Sandy Hook and stuff like that. These type of people, I mean, they're evil, in that kind of way where we have no words to truly describe what kind of evil they are, except to call them things like Satanists. That's not really fair because, Satanists are not really...
How about we call them psychopaths?
Yeah, well, we could, but then that implies they couldn't do otherwise. And I think at the top that
they're
they
conscious.
are not. They're not just machines. I think that psychopaths are the tools of these people that recognize they exist.
They're people with like black souls.
I think that
if
they
you
are
want to call
evil
it that.
people. They must be evil people because there's a certain craft to what they do that underlies a kind of malevolent creativity that I don't think would be present in a psychopath.
The level of skills necessary probably requires more than a psychopath. Psychopaths are kind of ideal tools, ideal robots, because they're kind of innately attracted towards destruction. So when you have a dark soul like that, it's
one of the problems with the idea of being a psychopath is that psychopaths, generally speaking, don't envision very far into the future or long term. But these people show this long-term strategizing that is really diabolical and really devious. You know what I mean? Like, because obviously, I mean, the 9/11 thing was planned well in advance, and it's coming to fruition now. You're talking at least 20 years there. Maybe you could even go back to JFK, the same type of people involved, or their ideological descendants. You know, and this is what people don't understand, and this is the scary part of the story.
This is what makes it a Psy-Ops.
This is what not what makes it a Psy-Ops. This picture that we're presenting of this all-seeing eye, can I say, what this basically a force, a power in the world that is controlling the entire planet and can see long-term and has a really in-depth knowledge of human psychology and how to manipulate masses of people. I mean, I don't know anybody else. And I can understand why they don't, but I don't know anybody else who would even want to go there, who would even go there. They all want to fixate on the little minutiae of their own corner.
Yeah, I know. And that's why I know you all do, and I try to, every day, encourage people to expand their knowledge base by reading. A lot of people ask, what's the point of reading a book? What's the point of seeking out books and getting information? Well, the point is arming yourself with knowledge because, as we all like to say, knowledge protects. You know,
save your life.
Ignorance endangers. And I think most of the people out there don't realize the gravity of the situation. They're being misinformed because they watch their televisions, and for a number of other reasons. You know, a lot of them are on antidepressant drugs and not thinking clearly, and a lot of them aren't thinking at all. I think it's important to read and gather as much information. That's why, I'm all for reading Judy's book, not to bring it up again, but I am all for reading it. I haven't been able to read it yet.
I think the point that to answer, our detractors and the fanatical people who really don't make Judy Wood look very good, is that we're talking here just about the truth and getting people away from out of the clutches of government and the manipulations of government to try and pull them in and make them trust and believe in authority, which will only end in their own destruction. To get people away from that, you don't need necessarily, and it's not even, for a lot of people, it's not even appropriate or useful to try and get them to look at all the details in depth, etc. If you can simply bring up, and you tailor it to each person, if you've got a little demographic who are of this type of person, this type of mind or whatever, you just present them with a certain type of information it's kind of softer, it's easier for them to grasp. You take them along one step at a time. You just say, listen, your government probably doesn't have your best interest at heart, or any number of little details. I'm sure, Lisa, you've tried to do that in various different ways yourself. And,
yes, sir.
And that's the approach we have to take, because you can't just be like a fanatic for one particular way of doing it, because you're going to miss out on a lot of people. And there are some people who say that, well, to hell with all the people out there, they've given up, and I've given up on them long ago. But we don't. We haven't given up on the potential or the possibility for snatching one or two out of the fire, even at the last moment. And whatever way we can tailor our message, which is consistent in its core, but we can tailor it in different ways to try and appeal and reach those people and save even just one at a time, save in the sense of getting them out of the clutches of evil government.
Well, look at education systems. And the pedagogical method is, standardized test. Everybody does the exact same thing. And then they've gone and done studies and said some people are kinesthetic. Some people do better this way, some people do better that way. And it's the same basic philosophy. It's like, you got to educate somebody And if you present it to them one way, you're going to guarantee that they're not going to get it, basically. I mean, you just cut them off, you know. And if you can just change the way you say things to present the same information in a palatable way, you know, you might help them. You don't know. Right. And it's about helping people in the end. It's not about being right.
Yep.
Being right is never the point. It's being good. It's helping people who are suffering in the world. People are suffering. People are dying. They're being murdered. Children are being murdered.
That's why I take issue with people who continue to want to believe what they're hearing on their TV, and innocent people are dying. You know, and they keep dying every day. They keep being killed every day because of the lies that are all the way tracked back to 9/11 in 2001. And it's still important. And there's a lot of people who don't even want to hear about 9/11 anymore because it was so long ago now. The years have flown by rather quickly, you know. But it's still just as relevant today as it was when it happened.
You know what the scary shit is? The scary thing is actually I think it tracks back further.
Yeah, I know it does.
JFK.
But you can't even go there with them, you know?
Before then. You know, I mean, all these Nazi scientists who were into the occult got nationalized and put into all these key positions of scientific power in all the intelligence agencies. And then look what happened.
The generations.
It smells of them. I mean, it reeks.
Yeah, and what a lot of people say our government wouldn't do that to us. You know, well, let's look at the Kent State shooting, and we don't have to even go into there, but they killed American citizens, you know, at Kent State. They killed our own people, you know, and that's another thing that irks me, too.
The Tuskegee experiment?
Huh?
The Tuskegee experiment?
Oh, absolutely.
Where they forcibly infected a bunch of African Americans with syphilis to see how long it would take them to suffer and die?
You know, I just wish people would look for alternative news sources other than their TV, you know. The TV has steered people away from the truth ever since it happened. I'm sure, and I know, and you know, there's other stories that they don't tell the truth about. They violate their own code of journalistic ethics, and, well, they used to have one. I don't really think they have one anymore, but that's debatable, I guess.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add to what Lisa said. You know, when you mentioned that when you regret the apathy of the masses in front of the daily suffering and daily killing of children, I was thinking about those dark elites, and I was wondering, somehow feeding from the suffering and the submission of human beings, I was wondering of the people. I was wondering if maybe even more important to them than the suffering and the death of thousands of children was not this induced apathy in human beings. Because at a deep level, there's probably a struggle about the souls of individuals, you know? And this mass apathy of billions of people, it's a huge, huge victory of the dark force.
And apathy is the only true sin in the world.
Absolutely. You know, people talk about wanting to get... everybody has to read Dr. Judy Wood's book. And sure, anybody who is at that level, where they have gone through the process, where they're willing to be expose themselves to that kind of information, that in-depth information, is fine. But you know what? There's millions and millions and millions of other people who are still have the potential, who all they need right now is to care a little bit about the death of children, the death of Palestinians, the fact that
it's not just American children. It's not just when the bullet flies home that it matters that the bullet appeared at all. You know, this selective empathy that I have written about on some occasions. You know, it just kills me to see that. It's like, why is an American life more important than any other life? It isn't.
Yeah. And it's a terrible indictment on human being, you know, to say that they don't care to that extent, you know. And we're trying, in our own way, to try and even just get people up to that level where they care in a simple way. Forget about even all 9/11 and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just care about the fact that people are dying.
Exactly.
And we are opposing here. We witnessed the opposition of two fundamental and non-mutually exclusive factors, that is the emotion, the empathy, the compassion, the emotional dimension, and on the other side, what Judy Wood presents the intellectual side, the evidence, the facts, and actually, for a human being, I mean, symbolically, to walk correctly, he needs those two legs, intellect and emotion. You need both. It's not. It goes hand in hand, actually. Truth and compassion and empathy.
Isn't that what makes us human? The two together.
Exactly. So we have to walk towards those two goals, and they go together.
I think apathy is a weapon of mass destruction, but what people don't realize, many people don't realize, is that who it's destroying is us.
Absolutely.
It destroys the apathetic person in the end.
Yeah. All right, Lisa, we're getting pretty close to our end time here, our real end time, and that we can't actually continue. We've just got a couple of minutes left. Do you have anything, monumental?
I would just like to say this. Because so much of the 9/11 truth movement has omitted the information, I would urge everyone to look into the Israeli connection to 9/11, the Israeli government connection to 9/11, and there's a lot of information out there about it, and I do think that a faction within the Israeli government played a central role in what happened.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, listen, Lisa, thanks for being on. It's been good. It's been good to talk to you and hear your voice and have your opinions on this topic of topics.
I thank you all very much for having me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lisa.
All right, take care.
We hope we can have you back soon, okay?
See you soon.
All right,
Take care of yourself.
Yes, I will.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
listeners.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, folks, that's it. It's been a bit of a polemic show, and it's all because we invited Dr. Judy Wood on the show.
I think it was a good thing. I think
it was a good thing, absolutely, and we wanted.
I loved all of her callers.
We wanted. You loved them all.
I did.
You should have seen some of the comments they were making on the thing. But
but that's good.
But they're real. Like, I mean, if you don't follow the Bible, you're evil.
I mean, they're in there with their Bible reading, quoting chapter and verse.
Yeah. Anyway, listen, folks, we'll be back next week with some other topic of some description.
Next week we've got Dr. Colin Ross.
Oh, exactly, Dr. Colin Ross. Look him up.
Author of CIA Doctors, so we'll be talking
doctors,
psychiatry.
Tune in for another Sott Talk Radio show. Over and out.